Can you hear me?
Yes,
There we go.
my dude, man,
Excellent. How's
good
it
to meet
going?
you. Excellent, man. And now that you're here, even better. It's a pleasure to have to chat with you again, Emilio. And I have to say, again, chatting with you again because we chatted. What was it? 2 times already on Discord. We had like a call.
Yeah, we chatted before. Yeah, yeah,
2 times, yeah. And yeah, we chatted about what was it? Politics, career,
yeah.
life,
Everything, yeah.
childhood. Yeah, man, it was nice, and you were very easy to talk to. In fact, it was so easy to talk with you that I felt like I was talking with friends. You know, I cracked open a few beers, and mentally, I was already at the seaside tavern in Greece having
Yeah,
a
you told me,
philosopher's
yeah.
night. Yeah,
Having
yeah.
a cold coffee.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. And of course, Emilio, apart from the fact that you're a nice dude and very easy to chat with, you have an expansive track record. Let me say a few things, and then I'll give you, you can say anything you want.
Yeah.
And you have an expansive track record, and that's what got my interest. And I'm gonna start from a little bit way back. You worked at TT, which is Traveler's Tales, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, and that's the
Yeah.
Lego games. Somebody might say Lego games, nothing special or whatever, but I looked at them while I was working at AMD. I looked at the build of Lego Star Wars, whatever, and it had custom rendering, and I was impressed. So that's pretty cool. And then you jumped to Hangar 13 and worked on the Mafia series.
So no, so
Yeah,
the way are we recording for the podcast already, by the
yeah,
way?
yeah. Already, yeah,
Okay, all right, perfect. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
we're starting from minute zero.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I can give you a. So it was TT was my first job doing graphics, not my
Yes.
first job in games.
Hmm.
And then I moved to Playground Games. I spent almost a year there.
Yes.
And then I went to Hangar 13. I was only there for 9 months because of instability situation there. We can talk
Yes.
more about that later. And then finally Rockstar, which is where I'm now.
That's amazing, by the way. Yeah, let's
Yeah,
say that
yeah,
for people. So currently, you are working on Grand Theft Auto 6. We
yeah,
will not talk a lot about it for obvious reasons,
yeah.
but in terms of projected sales, I've read it's one of the biggest games on the planet right now. If not the biggest, actually, in terms of projected sales. It's so big, Emilio, that I've read other publishers treating it like a comet or a nuke. Like they don't want to be anywhere around it when it publishes. Like the release date of their game they want it to be as far as possible from GTA, which is amazing, man. This is amazing. And to finish off my intro, that's what hooked me on you because I saw your path and it was like TT, Lego games, Hangar 13, Mafia, Playground games, Forza Horizon 5, which I love by the way. I love racing. And then you also are now doing Grand Theft Auto 6, Rockstar Games. So that to me, it showed that you have the ability to, that wasn't just luck because it happened consistently. You went on known series and even bigger series to work on, video game wise. And that suggested that this was less likely had to do with chance and more likely was focused effort, focused gray matter. You manifested that, which I think that's really cool. That's a special ability you might have there. And Emilio, would you like to tell us about how all of this manifested or how you started, how you entered the industry? You can go as back as you want. You can be as
Yeah.
detailed as you want. You can. It's your time.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
excellent. So, I mean, I've always liked games. I think have a lot in common with the people who work in games, in that we like it. We like this sort of little world where we, sort of enjoy ourselves away from the real world, in some
Yes.
sense. And I've always been in awe with just like the creativity and the amount of, especially in the age that our generation sort of grew up in, right, where games were basically um, taking off almost from scratch.
Yeah.
And the things that I remember from my childhood, so my dad, he would travel for work, so we would travel with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I lived in both Poland and Panama.
Mm-hmm.
And Panama for me was kind of like the breakthrough in terms of like games. Panama has a lot of influence from the United States, um, and a lot of the things that I learned there. I'm not sure. I mean, 1995, something like that.
Yes.
The internet was taking off, and emulators were taking off, 3D was taking off. A lot of stuff was going on around that
Are we
time.
talking early 90s? Somewhere there, Emilio?
Sort of mid 90s, I would
Mid
say,
90s?
towards the
Okay.
end, maybe.
I see, I
Yeah.
see.
So I remember my first graphics card was a Voodoo 3, right? So I
Okay.
mean, I was young enough to get to there. I'm sure there's other people that would have gotten to the Voodoo and previous,
Yes, yes,
there's a lot of history behind that, but
yes.
that's kind of where I was.
Mm-hmm.
Voodoo 3. Um, can't remember what the NVIDIA, it wasn't called NVIDIA at that point. It was like a Rage something
Ah,
card.
yes, yes. I vaguely remember
Um,
that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I remember the thing that most caught my attention was this
Yes.
Nintendo 64 emulator. It was called Ultra HLE, so Ultra High Level Emulator.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I never had a Nintendo 64, and I completed Ocarina of Time at that point, thanks to
That's a good one. Yep.
and just tinkering about with computers, that kind of stuff. My dad had a friend who had like a computer shop,
Mm-hmm.
and so he somehow managed to convince his friend that if I could go and just work at this store. And so I did that, and I was surrounded by hardware and people who were assembling computers.
Mm-hmm.
There was this guy Franklin, and he helped me out with all this stuff, and even took me places. So the shop would assemble computers and take them to like poorer parts of the country. I mean, Panama is a place of stark inequality, like a
Yes.
lot of South America,
Mm-hmm.
and so we basically went to places like almost in the middle of the jungle and install PCs
All
there, that
right.
kind of thing.
Proper
So
adventure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Indiana
yeah.
Jones style.
It was an interesting experience.
Cool. Cool.
I even took my own computer, I assembled parts there, saw how
Hmm.
fast they ran, and then I was like, oh, this is maybe what I need. Yeah, that kind of
Nice.
thing.
Nice.
Anyway, so I was really lucky to have that. Um, but I never got into anything like programming,
Yes.
which is interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
I went more towards like the 3D studio. There was this piece of software called True Space. So it's
Yeah.
been long dead. But it was kind of like a 3D package for enthusiasts, not so much professionals.
Okay.
And so I experimented with like water plugins and cloth plugins and like,
Okay.
I don't know. So I was more into the 3D and arty side, even though I'm not
So
much
3D
of an
3D
artist.
modeling, you mean, Emilio, right? Designing 3D
Yes,
models and all that, and playing with
modeling,
plugins as well.
animation,
Yeah.
and yes,
I
that's
see.
right,
I see.
that's
Makes
right,
sense.
yeah. And camera positioning and recording and this kind
Mm-hmm.
of stuff. So I remember wanting to make like a sort of Star Wars thing, and so
Hmm.
there was a planet and there were stars, and then like an asteroid came and there was a particle system. I mean, it's all super crude, very primitive. But I remember when I, being 13 years of age, I was like, man, this is great, this is amazing. I want
Yeah.
to do this. And then I came back to Spain, finished my school, it kind of died off. And so I started
Mm-hmm.
like the equivalent of electrical engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So I was introduced to kind of Java and all sorts of things, all sorts of bad programming practices. Like now in retrospect, like it was,
A bunch of yeah, the idioms and all this stuff that it is you. They put in your brain. Yeah.
yeah, all,
Conditioning.
all of all of this, program once, run anywhere,
Yeah.
Java is
Yeah.
going to be the future, object-oriented programming, newing everything up, that kind of
Classic.
thing.
Classic, Emilio. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, my university years were kind of unremarkable, except for the last year
Uh-huh.
where we had an optional
Yeah.
Android um, subject, like 6 months.
Okay.
And it was kind of like, it was just optional stuff. There was some
Mm-hmm.
credits that you could take anything, but I was like, okay, can I make a game?
Mm-hmm.
I started doing that. So I learned about, and it never occurred to me to get to something like Unity or anything like that. It wasn't.
Yes.
I'm sure it was popular. It's just I didn't know too much about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I need my sprite class, I need my animation class, I was just building things. I wasn't even doing like OpenGL at that point. I was just like rendering into a bitmap and copying things. It
Mm.
was very slow,
Okay.
and I was like, oh, okay, well, OpenGL maybe is a different thing. Oh, okay, well, what does a vertex mean? What does even all of that is just kind of
That's how it
discovering
started.
as
I see.
yeah,
I see.
as you want to do something.
Mm. Interesting.
Um, and then while doing that, so
Yeah.
I finished that. I was really excited
Uh-huh.
about that. I was like, I want to continue this. And I met this guy, Antonio. He was introduced to me by another friend, and he was like, "Oh, this guy, he's really into games. Why don't you get together with him?" And
Uh-huh.
back then he was doing Flash games.
Yes.
So what's this website that did Flash games? Um,
Ah.
like Newgrounds, I think is what
Something like
it's called.
Newsground. There were others. I don't
Yeah.
remember them because they're way back, Emilio. You're taking me
Yes,
many
yes.
years, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have difficulty. Yeah,
Flash was still alive. Flash was still a thing.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and so he was making these games, and he was doing mostly the art side and
Mm-hmm.
sort of doing more or less programming. And we
Yeah.
were like, yeah, why don't we team up and do something?
Yes.
So we tried making a game, and I mean, we made so many mistakes in the process.
Uh
We
huh.
learned a lot. We ended up making like an Indiegogo, because I think back then it was kind of like a Kickstarter kind of
Okay.
thing.
Okay.
But I don't think Kickstarter was available in Spain then. So,
Uh
but
huh.
this other alternative was.
Uh huh.
So we did that. We had a target. I mean, the website's still up. It's like
Really?
if you
Oh
wanted to
man.
see it, it's still there.
I will
Yeah,
ask for it later. Maybe I will link it. Who knows? But I haven't seen it.
yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. You tell me about
It's
it.
it's a it's a historical artifact at this
Good.
point,
Good. Good.
archaeology. Yeah,
Good. I'll check
I'll
it,
show
man.
you later.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Um, and we did that. We spent a lot of time. We spent like a year and a half or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. It was very stressful. I don't think my
Yes, it
family
can.
really understood what I was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was also like, in retrospect, like the game design was a
Yes.
bit poor. The way we were making assets and everything was a bit inefficient. We
Yeah.
eventually ported it to Unity, so we
Yes.
were working faster.
I
But
see.
we were just, yeah, yeah, go on.
And this was Emilio, and sorry for interrupting you, but just to get some
No, no.
context, this was you and your friend. You said so, two people working on
Yes.
this. So that means you had to also share roles, which means you juggled a bunch of things. Probably you had to do more than just like some aspect of programming or whatever. You had to do a ton of stuff. Maybe that was part
Yeah.
of it being difficult, or like how was the experience of developing this? Can you give us some more context?
Yeah, so the game design,
Mm-hmm.
it was trying to be like a very interactive sort of side-scrolling kind of thing.
Yeah.
You were this sort of red Martian, you rode on like animals. And, like,
Yes.
so the first level was an underwater level, and you were riding a what do you call it? A ray. These
Uh,
what do you call these animals?
what kind of animal?
Um,
How can you describe it?
this one that's it's flat, it's a bit triangular, it's got like a tail. I
Hmm.
don't know why I can't.
Is it like a sea? Is it like a sea animal?
It's a sea animal. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I don't know the word in English, but it's like the thing that's very flat with a tail.
Yes,
That
that's
the
right.
tail
That's
has
right.
and it
Yeah,
has a spike as well.
it's a stingray. A
A
stingray is
stingray,
what it's called.
yes.
Yes, a
Yeah,
stingray.
that's
Yeah.
it.
So yeah, so you rode a stingray, and then there
Yeah,
were a bunch of other like there was an abyssal fish, and there was like something that fired like like mm,
hmm,
stings at you or something,
yeah, yeah,
like almost like a blowfish kind of thing. And then
okay,
there were other like anemones and sort of thing.
yeah,
There were lots of things.
yes,
And the idea was that it was going to be like a mobile game, so the controls weren't really there. There were
uh-huh,
lots of things that were very confusing, and it was
I
just like
see,
basically a side-scrolling shoot 'em up with interactive elements and
I see, I
explosions and
see,
things.
I see.
And we were just trying to do way too much.
Hmm.
The resolution of the assets was way too big. The just everything was a bit too
And that
much.
was your first attempt at making something, making a
Yes.
game. Okay, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense, Emilio. That's how it starts, and I bet you learned
Yeah.
a lot there,
Yes,
because
definitely.
these are the beautiful
Yeah,
opportunities. Yeah. Sorry, go on,
definitely.
man.
Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, while we were in the middle of it, my mom was really anxious
Hmm.
because I'd left another job in an aerospace company,
Wow,
doing like I wasn't doing
you
aerospace
did
stuff.
aerospace as well, man. Okay.
No, no, no. So
Uh,
wait. So just to clarify, I was working on a solar powered plant.
okay.
They were planning to do like in the north of Africa or something,
Hmm.
and I was really bored there. I
Hmm.
didn't. I mean, the guy there taught me C, so that was the first time I really. I mean, I encountered C a little bit in university, but this was the first time that someone was like
More hands-on.
actually making me grok what pointer was and what memory allocation was and why it was expensive, that kind of stuff, right? So
Hmm.
a guy called Jorge Pons.
Jorge,
And
okay.
yeah, the poor guy, he was desperate with me. I think I was just constantly like, um, I
Wow.
tend to do this thing where I disregard things that I don't like. I don't pay attention to people, and
Yeah.
sometimes it seems like
Yeah.
like disrespect. I'm not trying to be
I think
disrespectful.
I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to do my best with what I know.
Yes, yes.
And anyway,
You
so
you focus
the
on the
guy had,
knowledge, and I know what you mean. And sometimes other
yeah,
aspects you just tune them out. You focus on
zone him
the
out.
juicy
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And the poor guy
You're an
was
efficient
was
mind. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, and so
Mm-hmm.
I worked there for a bit and I left it and because
Yes.
I wanted to make this game. And my mom she was just like, when are you going to get a job? When are you going to do something useful?
Classic
You
moms.
already had a job. Why did you have to? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, she wasn't kind of. I knew she was anxious. She didn't tell me that much, but she also didn't understand that I was working at home,
I
and
see.
so it was constant distractions, constant everything. The way things were structured at my house were
Yeah.
we had a common room, and
Yeah.
there were two computers,
Okay.
a family computer and mine.
What was the
Yeah.
difference, man? I'm curious already. What was?
Wait, so it didn't always start like this. So for the longest time there was only a family computer. It's just that 95% of the time I was there. I just didn't leave space for anyone else.
Yeah.
And at some point I was like, I need my own computer.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents were like, absolutely not, right? They were really worried, the internet, pornography, or just
Ah,
like
they
being
saw it as
isolated.
a portal to
Yeah,
something,
to
lots of things. Yeah.
potentially bad things for kid. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I
And
follow you.
so, yeah, they were a bit concerned with that. And also like maybe potentially being addicted to games.
Mm-hmm.
So my
Mm-hmm.
my dad, his first encounter with games, or his most remarkable encounter with games was StarCraft,
Oh yeah.
and he got absolutely like obsessed with it.
All
He
right.
wanted to finish the campaign. He'd stay up really late with it,
All
and then at
right.
some point he was like, "Never again.
Maybe that's where you
This is
got the
too."
genes from, Emilio. The computer genes. Maybe it was your dad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, no, no. This was sort of like in parallel, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
um, and the thing is, I really don't know what they were thinking. They were
Mm-hmm.
just concerned. I understood all of this obviously
Understandable. Yeah.
after, yeah. But the thing is, I was like, well, I need my own computer. I
Mm-hmm.
started asking all my siblings for money and just like trying to see, okay, how can I buy my own computer?
Yeah.
And my dad was like, okay, I didn't come here to fight the elements. We'll get to an agreement. So your computer will not be in your room. It'll be in the common room.
Okay.
Everyone can see everything, and it'll be just your thing. You can repay
I
as
see.
you earn money and this kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was like, okay, yeah, I can work with that. Fine.
yeah. I see.
And so yeah, and that was the setup, right? Since that happened, it was
Uh-huh.
always two computers side by side. One was mine, the other one. And so you can imagine my house, we have six siblings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Super crazy.
Mm-hmm. Six
And
siblings. Wow.
so trying to work on this project
Mm-hmm.
in a place which is like it's like a metro
Noise and people
station,
shouting. Yeah, yeah,
noise, yeah, it's lunchtime, it's this, that,
yeah.
the other. It was difficult.
Yeah, yeah. I bet, man. I bet.
Yeah, and so in sort of like in that context, I was like, okay, fine, fine. I'll try and find a job just to appease my mom. Um,
Yeah.
and there were Madrid is not a place for games,
Yes.
or Spain in general. I would say Barcelona maybe a little bit more, but it's more about mobile games and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, well, I'll put my CD out there,
Mm-hmm.
see what happens. And back then there was a studio in Madrid called so Game Loft Madrid. It was just a
Mm.
spin-off of
I
Game
know
Loft,
it.
but in
Game
Madrid.
Loft. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think people know it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the mobile company,
Mobile. Yeah.
this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I did the test and they really liked it. So with all the knowledge I had from the game, I actually aced the test. I
Yeah.
was like,
Uh-huh.
oh, okay, it was really
That's
good that I
awesome.
had this experience
That's
so
awesome.
that I could
May I ask a question?
uh yeah,
The
yeah,
test
sure.
with the test, what was the nature for people that might be aspiring developers listening to us? What was the
Yeah.
nature of the test for game of the developer of mobile games?
That's a good question. So let me see what I can remember. There were
Mm-hmm.
things about like RGB and packing RGB into like 32-bit units.
Yes. Okay.
There were things about, I think, like detection in 2D for like bullets or something like
Ah,
that,
like
like how you
collision
would do
detection, you
this.
mean, Emilio?
A little bit like that,
I see. I
yeah.
see. Okay.
Um, there were things about like layers. So the thing about Gameloft at the time that I
Mm-hmm.
went in is that they were heavily focused in markets that still didn't have hardware accelerated phones.
Yes.
So it was all about like blitzing to the frame buffer, writing pixels directly.
Mm-hmm.
So any of that work that like today you wouldn't think in those terms at all.
Yes.
but back then it was like, oh, okay, we'll only redraw this portion of the screen when there's movement and this kind of thing. And then you layered things on top, and
Mm-hmm.
then, to avoid overdraw, you wouldn't draw on this thing. Like it was all very much more manual, much like in the
Yeah,
olden
yeah,
days, let's
I
say.
bet. Yeah, that's
And
interesting.
so the test was kind of like that, and they gave you like a screen, and they say, okay, how do you think this was drawn? And it was a very long time ago. I
Yeah,
only have sort of notions of it, but it was very geared towards that.
I see.
Um,
And it was a real time, like it wasn't like a test for home. It was a real time on-site test, I guess, that you did there with them, something like that. What was the nature?
no, it was a take-home test.
I see.
You put your answers and send it back,
I
and
see. I see,
then
Emilio. Okay.
they had like an in-person test.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I remember going into like a glass room and they had it all full of post-its, I guess from Scrum or
Were you
whatever.
were you nervous at all at this? I know you aced it, but were you nervous at some point, or you were like, I got this. That's easy.
No, I was always nervous back
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
because I just didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. I feel you, man. I
So,
feel you. I'm the same.
um, I look, so consider that at the time I didn't even know that I wanted to work on graphics.
Mm,
So this was a job for a gameplay programmer.
I see. I see.
Um,
Uncharted
so
territory, Emilio. Yeah.
what's that?
Uncharted territory. It was a new adventure for you.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
many
yeah,
ways.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, yeah. Never worked on games, and the thing is, the other project was
Yeah.
really stressful. The the reason I got this job, so I spoke to Antonio, right, and I
Yeah.
was like, dude, I don't want to leave you hanging, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You should get a job too, and maybe we can do this sort of like part time or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Antonio was an absolute machine, like a workhorse. He would work the longest hours,
Wow.
put everything he had into everything, and he was like, "No, man, you do this, you have the opportunity, you can work in the evenings. I'll, you know,
I
I'll,
see.
I'll take care of my side. Don't worry about it."
And Antonio, you mentioned
And
is the guy that you were working with for your first game. The guy you
for the
mentioned
game,
before. Okay.
yes,
Just
that's
to,
right.
to
Yeah,
stay with
yeah,
me.
yeah,
Okay, I follow you.
yeah. The game was called Will of Flame.
How was
That
it?
was
How was it called?
Will of Flame.
Wheel of Flame. Aha.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
I need
yeah.
to check
Very
that,
epic.
man.
It's the kind of will we needed
I
to
need, I
make
need to
that
check
work.
it, man. I'll check it. Cool.
Um, Again, this
Hmm.
is nothing impressive, but the
No, it
amount of
doesn't
work we
matter.
put into
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
it was great.
No,
And
mention it, man.
it was a lot of fun too. Like I remember all of that very fondly.
Hmm.
It's just that it was very stressful, especially towards the end. And we never reached the goal in Indiegogo, right? The people were very generous, our friends. We never actually went beyond our sort of core family, friends,
Yeah, I feel you.
acquaintances kind of circle, right?
I feel you. I feel you.
It never went.
Yes.
That was another big mistake, like marketing and stuff
Hmm.
like that. We completely ignored it, and it was
But it's how you
yeah.
learn. I think no matter what, like for me as well, I took part in Imagine Cup. You remind me of that now, where you make games and you compete. It's in Microsoft competition.
Yeah.
And we messed up so many stuff, Emilio. So many stuff.
Yeah.
Left and right, we've messed up everything. I would say another word, but I can't on the podcast. But we messed up everything. But the thing is, man, I learned so much. And I think that's why you talk about it. And you talk about it fondly. I can see it on your face. Because you learned from that. And it probably played a big factor into
Mm.
you becoming who you became.
Yeah,
But I can
yeah,
totally
definitely.
relate with you, man. 100%. Sorry, Emilio, go on.
No, so where was I? So I studied at
Yeah.
Gameloft. Gameloft was in the center of Madrid, next to the Cibeles Plaza.
Yes.
So very, very centric.
Yes.
And yeah, it was very disorganized,
Oh,
very mismanaged, severely mismanaged.
I see. I see.
Um, it so when I started, my first weekend
Yes.
was the producer that was there were like two floors, and it was structured into like the Java team
Yes.
and the C++ team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the C++ team was kind of like the more serious, let's say. They were doing like iPhone games,
I see.
and
More
they were
involved stuff.
doing like more hardware accelerated stuff, whereas we were in the Java side of things. We were sort of migrating
Mm-hmm.
towards OpenGLES, but
Mm-hmm.
like not quite.
I see, man. Okay.
And the producer was like in the first week, he was like, okay, well, who wants to come in the weekend? And I was, really. eager to show just how
Good.
committed I was and everything. And
Man
I
on a
was like,
mission.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Go.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'll come. I'll fix everything.
Yeah.
And so we get there. It took me an hour to get to the office.
hmm
I had to take a bus and then the train and
Oof.
then walk for a bit and all
I've been
that.
there, man.
So, what's that?
I've been there. I know your pain,
Yeah,
brother. I know it.
exactly,
Yeah. I know it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So there was that, and I get there. The producer gets there. Another programmer, Sergio, gets there,
hmm
and the producer, a guy called Giuseppe, he
Yes.
says he looks at his email and he's like, "No, guys, we need to get back home. The feedback isn't worth anything. Like, we cannot work today."
Wow. Okay.
And that was we hadn't even gone into the office. We were just at the door.
Yeah.
And that's where something in my head went click, and it's like, okay, only if necessary, right? Let's
Yes.
keep this.
Yes.
And from then on, almost every time that there was like a call for overtime or whatever, I would just
Yeah.
ask Giuseppe, like, is this really necessary? And he'd just go past me. Like at that
Wow.
point, he was like, okay, we're not convincing this guy to do any
I
overtime
see. I see. Man.
because it was kind of pointless.
Yeah.
It was all about the requirements from France, and then those got distilled into the producer,
I
the
see.
sort of like the studio producer, and then
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. It was like a chain of things, and it was
hmm
so
hmm
messy.
It was messy. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I spent there like a year and a half,
Yeah.
and I only released one project, which
hmm
was the one that I arrived into
Yes.
for like the last 2 months,
Yeah.
and then every other project I worked on, except for the last, was cancelled.
Yeah.
So many projects just cancelled one after
How
the
many
other.
cancelled projects have you had on your belt? I have one.
Uh, in Gameloft, there were
Yeah.
at least like four or
Four.
something.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
hurts. It
yeah.
hurts, man. It hurts. I know.
It was quite a lot. At some point, it was just like a meme.
Yeah.
It was so silly. It was
Another
so
one.
silly.
Yeah.
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 Um, yeah, we did silly things
hmm
in our meetings, and we had like silly symbols and jokes and like inside whatever. Just a it was a way to just sort of vent the frustration of
Yeah.
how.
Yeah. I bet, man. And
So we had this joke where things had to be like more orange or more punchy
yes.
or more like in words that basically don't mean anything.
Yes.
And so anytime some requirement came in, it's like, I'm sure we need to add more orange to this corner or to this button or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, it was just very silly. There's a lot more stories,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we don't
Uh,
have to get into those.
it's fine. I think I get a
Um,
pretty good idea of how it was.
yeah.
And
The fun thing about, sorry, no, go on.
no. Nothing. Go on, and I will continue later. No worries. It's
Yeah.
your episode.
I was just going to say that the people there were amazing. Like, I
Mm.
met, lots of friends there. They really passionate people. They really cared about, the games, the gaming in itself. A lot of them were very old school, so they would
I
talk
see. I
about like
see.
Street Fighter, this
All
kind of
right.
stuff.
Yeah.
And many of these things I just like, didn't know anything about, right? And
Yeah.
and so their passion and their
Yes. Of course.
the good humor
Of
and
course.
their we had
It's infectious. Yeah. Of
like
course.
we had a good thing going on, I
Yeah.
think.
Uh,
um
have you made any
and
good friends that you still talk with today? Like true bonds that even today you
yeah,
chat a little bit, maybe on Facebook or whatever, and message once every month. It's still fine. Have you made any
so
bonds like that, Emilio?
right, so with most of them we have like a WhatsApp group that's still active,
Ah,
and we just put like silly
see,
stuff there, that
classic.
kind of
Yeah,
thing, so
yeah.
there's still a bond. But then with my friend Manu,
hmm
just a lifelong friendship.
hmm
He lives like 5 minutes away from me now,
I see. Well, that's
or
nice.
rather, I live 5 minutes away from him because he came here first, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Leamington Spa.
yeah.
And yeah, we worked together. So this is kind of where I was leading to. The last project
Yes.
that I worked on at Gameloft
hmm
was a pool game.
Pool game.
It was
Okay.
yeah, it was called like Midnight Pool or something.
It does remind me of something, to be honest. The title tells me
Um,
something. I don't remember the specifics. Hmm.
there were other Midnight Pools. I don't know which number.
Oh yeah.
Midnight Pool 5 or Midnight Pool
Oh, there were
something.
that
Yeah.
many. Okay, maybe that's why I
Yeah,
know it.
yeah. There were a few. There were a few.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Cool, man.
Um, and so for that game, they wanted
hmm
to do like it, it, we thought, okay, we'll make it hardware accelerated. Like we're actually, write shaders and make it 3D but top down, and
Yes.
then we'll put sprites on top and that kind of thing. And the game operated in like a virtual 3D space, even though we were only so that you could do like tricks where the
Yeah.
ball jumps on over
Mm-hmm.
balls, and you could apply torque, you could apply all sorts of like neat things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and at that point, Manu, he worked on the physics stuff.
Yes.
I worked on the graphics, and together we did like the math library that connected both. So
Uh-huh.
it was all like pretty coherent, pretty seamless.
Uh-huh.
That was very nice. And that's basically when I wrote my first shader.
Ah,
So my
okay.
first shader was a ball with an unwrapped texture for the yellow, which I think is number one.
I see.
That
I
was
see.
that was the first thing I
And
ever did.
was it an instant moment of love, Emilio? Like it was usually when something is very important, you remember it vividly, even if it was just a moment in your past many years
Yes.
ago. Was it a moment like that, like a pivotal moment for Emilio?
There have been a few pivotal moments.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my first pivotal moment was when my dad got me the Voodoo 3.
Ah,
I,
okay.
I, I have to say, despite him being against in so many things, he always was for the key moments for
He
me.
was there.
Yeah, yeah. Which is it sounds like a contradiction, but I think he himself was figuring out
He
like where
understood you,
this was going
Emilio.
to take me.
He saw the passion, man. I think he saw the passion. So he was like, "Oh,
May,
come on, let him
maybe.
do it." Yeah,
Maybe I never
yeah,
asked him.
yeah.
He did have his key moment type of
Good.
being present, right, as a
Glad to hear
dad.
that, man.
So that was a key moment
Hmm.
for me. Writing my first shader really was like, wow, okay,
Yeah,
maybe I want to do this
yeah.
more. Um, and there was this guy, Xavier Berguin, and he works for Apple now, so
Mm.
very successful
Wow.
career now.
So we're
He
talking about
um,
Cupertino. He's in Cupertino, Silicon
Yeah,
Valley.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He's in California now. Yeah.
Okay.
And he was making his own like metal renderer in
Mm.
Gameloft or something like that. And I remember going up to him and asking, what's a default renderer? How does this work?
Yeah.
Should I use this? What is overdraw? What is like all of these things? It's just like basically as I was doing this thing,
Yeah.
um, I mean, there were a couple of things. There was another game based on the Cars franchise that I did a bit of help on in terms of like draw batching and culling of things and
Yeah.
um like atlasing and well
Mm-hmm.
there were a few things
Mm-hmm.
and then the pool thing came, and so Xavier was always like the guy I would go to learn
The
about
wizard.
the graphic. Yeah, he was the wizard. Yeah, definitely. He was
Yeah.
Gandalf.
And for people who are listening to us, he was working with Metal, like you said. Metal is like a
Yes.
low-level API, like Vulkan, stuff like that. So it's a
Yes.
more low-level API, more involved. So yeah, he
Yeah,
was a
Mac,
wizard.
Mac, Mac only, right? So that was
Yes,
for the
Mac only.
iPhone, which well, Mac as in
Yeah,
iOS
yeah.
in that
And
case,
it
because they
makes
were
sense why
making.
he ended up to Cupertino, Silicon Valley, with Apple.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
all
That
connects.
was that was
Yeah,
his.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Exactly, exactly.
yeah.
That was his love. That was his passion.
That's
Xcode,
beautiful, man, to
tools,
share
metal,
that.
that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's awesome to share it with
and
people.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and
Mm.
and I mean, yeah, the guy was just like opening. He was like the guy with the machete in the jungle, right? He was opening all this.
Destroying everything. Man on a mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, no, in terms of opening the road for me, right? As in,
Ah, I
yeah, yeah, yeah,
see.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he helped you. I see. I
Yeah, yeah,
see.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah. That's nice.
Um, and then for the pool game, so yeah, so it was like the balls, and then
Hmm.
the I don't know, this is where I learned about like BRDS and what Fong was
Mm.
and Blim Fong and all this stuff,
All
and
the
then
physics.
just
Yes.
yeah, trying to tweak it and putting that. I added like the cube map for the room as
Hmm.
well and
Hmm.
all this stuff. So it was all very primitive, right? From the
Yes.
point of view of someone who knows a bit for graphics, it's all like just a 101.
Yes.
But I never studied anything. My university wasn't
Yes.
that. I didn't never made a course. Uh,
Sorry.
yeah, and no one other than Xavier really had any idea
Mm.
in that time. So that's
And we have to say, Emilio, that also all of this is back for both you and me. I remember a time where AI didn't exist or any tools like that. You had to
yeah, yeah, no.
sit down on your own, find your friend, like you're saying, maybe buy a book. I don't know. It was a lot of manual work on your own, like you said, zero help pretty much. Maybe you had your
Yeah,
friend. That was all.
yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty awesome what you did on your own. I can
I
appreciate it,
mean,
man.
other ecosystems like the US or the UK or like places that
Yeah.
have a more established presence might have been a bit easier. Even some parts of Spain, like Barcelona or maybe the Basque Country, where
Yes.
there used to be like that's where Íñigo Quílez comes from, right? There's
Yeah.
the Euskal parties is what they call them.
Okay.
It's kind of like a massive LAN party and
Yeah,
things like
yeah.
that. I was never involved in any of that,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't know people that did graphics.
I see.
Um, but anyway, so the
Mm-hmm.
that thing happened, and at the same time, I was like, I need to jump ship, right? This is Gameloft is going nowhere.
Yes.
It was kind of premonitory because Gameloft closed a year after I left as
Oh,
well.
wow. That was a smart
Yeah,
move then. Wise man.
yeah,
You must be doing
very,
well
very,
at the stock market as well if you can predict the future like that.
no, I wish I could predict it that well.
Yeah. Go on,
The
man. Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
mismanaged, nepotism, all sorts of bizarre things. It was
Classic stuff.
things that I didn't really want to get involved in.
Mm. I feel you, man.
Like
Yeah.
I've, I've never been one to how to say
Mm-hmm.
gossip around and like spread
Yes,
bad
classic
stuff. Like
club, Emilio. Sadly, I've been there. It's
yeah,
the industry can be toxic. We have to say that as well. It can be beautiful. It
yeah,
can be beautiful people like you pursuing knowledge and doing great things. But also, when a company gets very big, or even big enough, it starts to become chaotic, like the government, one might say, and you get all this negative stuff. So I totally understand you, Emilio. And sorry to interrupt you.
maybe.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. It's just I wasn't interested in getting into that kind of thing, the
Yes.
gossip and stuff. I knew that it existed,
Yes.
and it just didn't sound like we had very um,
Mm-hmm.
bizarre requests,
Mm.
totally unattainable. Like I remember they once wanted us to make like a football game in time for the World Cup,
Okay.
but we had 3 months to do it, and the code base was inherited from some Chinese team.
Oof.
We had to strip the comments in Chinese
Oh
because it
man.
wouldn't compile, it wouldn't accept the UTF, and if and so in the end, like it was so unfeasible. We
Mm.
had a very tense reunion there, and it was like, this can't be done. And I don't know, it was just weird. It was just
Yeah,
weird. So
definitely.
I didn't want to stay there any longer than I had to.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Manuel was on the same boat, and we basically he's more of a like a gameplay guy. He calls himself um like a like a pro designer or something, like a programmer designer kind of
Yeah.
hybrid.
Yes.
So he has like a very intuitive sense of what works in terms of like gameplay balance,
Yes.
mechanics, that kind of stuff. But at the same time, he can code like a charm and just make things a reality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
That's interesting.
it makes him like a really interesting sort of profile.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very flexible, very fast.
Yeah.
And so we were basically sharing like so the thing, and this would be interesting maybe for people trying to. I got someone.
Yeah.
I'm not like Costas. Nobody writes to me every day asking for counsel, but
Ah, you
just the
mean
other day,
Costas Anagnostou for people that.
Costas,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Costas
Who
Anagnostou,
was
yeah,
my
he's very
mentor, by the way. Yeah, go on, Emilio.
right.
Yeah,
So he's a very popular guy.
yeah, yeah.
He shares knowledge a lot, and lots of
Yes,
people, seem to ask him for
yes.
questions. I don't presume to have like, a tenth of the reach that he has. But someone recently came to me and asked for some counsel,
Mm-hmm.
and so kind of like what I'm about to say, I think
Yeah,
might help in the sense of how lost I was at that point. So
yeah,
I didn't really know where to get a job.
yeah.
I was thinking Spain wasn't going to cut it.
Mm-hmm.
The studios that are there are very few. So you
Mm-hmm.
get things like Mercury Steam, right? That's the biggest one, at least in terms of like the scope of the project.
Gotcha.
You had Tequila,
Yeah,
which is now in a bit of dire
yeah. Mm.
straits. You had things like Digital Legends, which is now kind of like a helper studio or like owned by Activision.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there isn't that much more,
Yeah.
and there certainly wasn't a lot back then either. So I was like, okay, well, it's got to be something like Germany, France, the UK, that kind of thing.
I
The
see.
US was very attractive, but
Mm-hmm.
at that time I was going out with Anna. She would eventually become my wife,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think I was, prepared
Yeah,
to
yeah.
take such a drastic
I
cut.
see.
So I was like, okay, well, let's see how this works.
Mm-hmm.
And the UK has a pretty robust sort of network of recruiters,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they will, guide you and
Yeah.
sort of follow up the things. They will give sort of. tell you what the offers are at that point. And obviously, I was looking for a junior role.
And all of that,
Uh,
Emilio, how did it start? How did you come in contact with the recruiters that you're mentioning now? Was it LinkedIn or directly going to where they are, like a studio or whatever? How did you initiate contact with the
no,
industry?
you go to their website and you sign up,
I see.
and then
Ah,
they get
that's
in
what you mean.
contact
You
with you.
went to the
Yeah,
agency. Got it.
yeah.
Got it. Got it.
Basically,
Got it.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the agencies. So like
Yeah.
OPM. Well, OPM I think is defunct now, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk about OPM later.
Yeah.
And Aardvark Swift,
Yes.
and I don't know. There's a bunch of others.
I know them. Mm-hmm.
And the other thing as well, there was this website called Game Dev Map,
Yes. Ah, I know it.
which
Yeah.
shows you every studio in the
It's a map.
world,
Yeah.
whether there's some. It's actually useful even for people who don't, well, don't want to be um, developers in the sort of programming, design, and artists.
Mm-hmm.
There's the publishers, for the marketing people,
Yeah.
or the distribution,
Yes.
all that kind of stuff. Everything is in there. That was invaluable. Like absolutely.
I bet.
I tend to do things with like an Excel. So I'll take some task, whatever it is. I
Mm-hmm.
want to find a place to rent. I
Mm-hmm.
want to find a car. I'll make an Excel. I'll structure it out. I'll put the options. I'll do the things. I'll spend some time researching. So I
Mm-hmm.
did exactly the same thing.
I see.
I put all the companies that I was interested in. I mean, not that I was picky, right? I would have taken
Yeah, yeah, of course.
anything
I know
just
what you
to
mean. Yeah.
just yeah, just to get in.
Yeah.
But at least there were so many companies that I didn't even know about, and that was a very interesting like research experience.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I um, what are they asking for?
Yes.
Like I didn't really know what they were asking
What do
for
they
in order
need?
to get
Yeah.
into graphics,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then that entire process was very like you need to let go of your ego in a way. Like
Mm-hmm.
you need to
I
that
agree with that.
teaches you humility because every answer until you get a yes is a no, and there are a
Wow.
lot of
Oh,
no's.
yeah, yeah. Allow me to make small parenthesis in the beginning for everyone, including me. It's very difficult. And I think it's very important to have somebody to tell you what you're just saying now, to remember this, because you will get some
Yeah,
no's. And in the beginning, it can feel difficult. Go on, Emilio.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Well, there's lots of no's, and also people won't um, tell you why. Yeah, like you won't get a reply. You'll just get radio silence. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And so you're,
Mm.
you stood there like, I want to change this stuff. I don't even know what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's very valuable to just go to the website. In Spain, I don't think they do this as
Mm.
much.
Yeah.
Like you don't get like they'll go more for LinkedIn and stuff, and that's where you have the requirements. But here in the, or at least they used to, I think they must still do, they
Yeah.
advertise the jobs and they'll put every requirement that they want,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
then, so you read that and you're like, oh, okay, what is HLSL? I better learn this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is D3D? Oh, I better learn this.
Yes.
And what is this other thing, right? So you get an idea, okay, what is
That's
it that
good.
they're
Yeah.
asking?
Hmm.
And that kind of thing. So you do that, you do many interviews, they'll give you tests, you'll fail them all. I mean, again, it depends. I hadn't done computer science. I hadn't done a video game course. So for me, all of this was new.
Yes.
And but it was kind of like trial and error,
Mm-hmm.
and then also learning from the questions. So I remember I interviewed for Codemasters,
Yes.
and I at home, oh, because this is the other thing, right? At home, with all this sort of knowledge, I was like, okay, well, I better build a little thing, right? What you would call your toy
Yeah, that
engine.
helps a lot. Yes.
Yeah. So I was doing that. It was OpenGL. It was kind of halfway taken from what I'd learned with um, the original game, with Antonio.
Yes.
And then I ported out to PC, and then I had like a cube spinning, and then
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember what I had.
Like I get the
Um,
idea. I get the idea. You started to have a little something, but some
yeah.
hands-on stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd gotten to the point of deferred, right? I was
Uh-huh.
doing a full screen pass for every light or
Nice.
something.
Deferred
And
lighting.
the codemasters person was like, okay, well, how would you optimize this deferred thing? And I was like, well, I don't know. You know what I mean, optimize? Yeah, like, and he was just like, so I didn't see his face, but like he must have winked at me, like, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
hadn't got to that point,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was,
Yeah.
obviously writing to the stencil and this
Yes.
kind of stuff.
Yes.
Um, so I didn't get that. I
Yeah.
was too inexperienced to get that.
Yeah.
Um, I do remember someone from a company called Boss Alien.
Boss Alien. I never heard about them. I don't remember them at least. Go on.
And he was the only person who wrote back and said, "Listen, man, you're a bit too green. um, too inexperienced, but you're on the right track. Just keep on doing it.
That's
Keep on
beautiful.
doing what you're
Yeah.
doing. You'll get there, and you'll be more prepared for the
Yeah.
interviews."
And that's rare,
And
Emilio. No, nobody has done this for me to actually reject me, but
no,
also tell me like, dude, just study this and this. You know what I mean?
mm,
Or you're, yeah,
mm.
that's good. I'm glad you got it, man.
Yeah, he didn't give me like a list of things. He was just like very encouraging,
Yes.
and I was very grateful for that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I
That's
always
awesome.
I remember it as a like a nice, okay, right, let's keep
Yeah,
going.
man. Yeah. And the small parenthesis. I think if people
Yeah.
like that in the industry were like that in general, more humane, the industry would have been a much better place. I love this when somebody actually, takes time to talk with somebody or just give you not even if it doesn't give you specific instructions. That
Mm,
generic recognition, it's a
yeah.
boost. It's a psychological boost, Emilio. And in that moment, you have
Yeah.
nothing else. You only have that. So it's of high importance. Even just an acknowledgement, like you
Yeah.
mentioned.
I cannot blame anyone who won't reply though, because the amount of
Logistics.
candidates,
Yeah.
and yeah, the things also have to go through HR.
Mm-hmm.
So this person wrote to me directly. It was probably a small company, and
Yes.
they could afford to do that kind of thing. But in general, and this is kind of why I was saying earlier that you need to let go of anything that you might perceive as personal, because none of it is,
Mm.
right? Sometimes you arrive at the wrong time. They've hired someone else.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just not looking for a profile like you. They're looking for someone either more junior or more senior. You could be overqualified. Um,
Exactly.
Sometimes, they were looking and now they're not because of some budgetary something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once you're inside, you see the complexity of it all, and it's like, okay, well, it's not you at all, right?
Yes. Yes.
It's
Exactly.
it's which of course I'm not saying that it's perfect and we shouldn't do anything.
I
All I'm
get you.
saying
I
is
get you.
just the complexities of it. I can understand
Absolutely.
why. Um, uh, where were we?
Um, yeah. So there was a company called Big Boss. Oh, what? No, it wasn't Big Boss.
Boss Alien.
Boss Alien. Big Boss.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
Metal Gear Solid. Okay, go on.
Yeah, it's not a bad company name, Big Boss. To be honest, Big Boss Games.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
so in the process of that,
Yeah.
it was very difficult sometimes to handle, the volume of
Mm-hmm.
things with the recruiters and everything. They were
Yeah.
following up. Each of them has their own, let's don't want to say agenda. They all have their own like objectives and things, and so sometimes it's just sort of hard to manage.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, after all of the failures and stuff,
Yeah.
the opportunity at TT came along. It was a junior position, graphics programmer, render tech, like they call them.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I was like, okay, well, okay. I mean, bear in mind, for one interview,
Yeah.
I'd even flown to Portsmouth, and then they
Ah,
had said no.
Portsmouth is that seaside city, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah,
there
that's
once. Yeah, yeah,
down south.
yeah,
Beautiful
yeah.
town.
Yeah, it is
Beautiful
beautiful.
town.
Yes.
The office had these massive window panes
Yeah.
straight into the harbor.
Yeah, exactly. It's beautiful. Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Yeah,
And how
very,
was your
very nice.
experience, Emilio, with this first, uh, say, UK serious kind of thing?
Oh, I wasn't thinking about that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I came in, um, I I just went to the interview. They gave me a computer. They said, do this test.
Hmm.
I flew back, and then there was radio silence. I didn't quite understand what that was about, to
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
honest.
I see.
Why they would fly me there. Well, they
Yeah.
didn't fly me. I paid for the ticket,
Yes.
and then say nothing.
Yes.
So I don't
By the
want to
way,
say the name of
I
it.
think
Yeah.
it's really cool that you're so successful in what you do, yet you have the confidence, let's say, if I could not say something else, to actually talk about this stuff as well, which is part of the industry. Like, you might be awesome, but everybody, you can have an interview and maybe you get radio silence, which is normal. And I think it's very important, especially for young, aspiring viewers
Yeah.
or listeners to hear that. I think you're very cool for that. It's a good
Yeah.
sign.
Don't lose track. Some people are quite fortunate and they get into like
Yeah.
big studios and stuff, like on their first try and things.
Yes.
I'm not, they are very smart people, but it's good to appreciate kind of the the long stare to get
With
the
you.
place.
Yeah, yeah, with you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not everyone gets in on the first try. I have to say, once you get in,
Uh-huh.
things become a lot easier,
Yeah.
right? So there's that, and I think everyone um, generally agrees
I
that
agree as
more
well.
once you have a bit of experience, then it's a different thing. Now you're playing inside the pool, you're not trying to get in.
Exactly. The opportunities
Um,
come to you and you get to discuss with them and decide if it fits for you and them. It's no longer in one way, you keep knocking on doors and hoping somebody answers.
yeah,
It's more like a two-way
it's
thing.
it's not only that as well.
Hmm.
Once you're in and you spent a bit of time, people move
Oh,
around and you
big
speak to
thing.
them and they're like, oh, there's this opening, why not? It's this kind you start networking and
Hmm.
it now you're in the club, let's say.
Yeah.
Um, so there's that. But I was told this as well. I was
Hmm.
told once you're in, because I did speak to some people. There was someone, Gabriel,
Uh-huh.
Gabriel de la Cruz. He worked in Mercury Steam, and then he went to Canada, and I'm not sure what he's done now. I
Uh-huh.
haven't spoken to him in a long time, but he was kind enough, and we got together for a coffee, and he was telling me,
Hmm.
he would give me lots of advice, and one of them was once you get in, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier.
Yes.
So that. Um,
Yeah.
so anyway, the opportunity at TT came along, and I was like very excited. I
Hmm.
did the test. Uh, the test was one of the most fun tests that I've done. Well,
Really?
no, the most fun test. Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
Oh man, you have to
yeah,
tell us about that one.
yeah, yeah. I'll tell you about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So okay, so a lot of the tests in well, there's as many tests as there are companies really. There's
Yes.
nothing. I've seen lots of things. So some of them are like your run-of-the-mill technical test. You go in, you have a map with 5 nodes, and you need to get from A to D and the shortest thing. And so how do you calculate that kind of thing?
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
all right. What kind of structure would you use or whatever? I don't know. A bit more theoretical,
Hmm.
right? I don't even know how to answer those like off the top of my head. I think just need to think about it for a bit and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Okay.
There's others that are more like a gameplay like. So there'll be like I remember one which was like you have a tank and you have an objective and how do you know if the tank, the cannon is looking at the objective.
Okay.
So you're supposed to answer with some sort of trigonometry thing and like a cone or like a cross product or something like that. And
Hmm.
then um, uh, there's others which are like um,
If
there
you
was one where you got
if you don't remember, you don't have to struggle. You don't have to struggle,
yeah,
but you
no,
can
that's
do
right.
them.
Okay, so
Ah.
I guess what I'm trying to say is a
Yeah.
lot of them are quite simple,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they're simple tests. They're meant to see if you can program, if you can use, let's say, like Visual Studio or whatever,
Hmm.
if you can do basic programming stuff.
Yeah.
I remember at Playground, for example, there was a technical thing, but then also like for example, Costas was in person,
Mm.
sort of like following through, so it's a bit more
Yeah.
personal in that sense,
Yeah.
which I can appreciate.
Yeah.
I like it when things are personal and not so much.
Yeah.
But the TT one was basically they gave you a Visual Studio solution. It was a
Yeah.
game,
Yeah.
and it's completely broken,
Yeah.
right?
I see.
So you're there. First off, you need to compile.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is. It doesn't link or it doesn't compile. You meant to
Yeah.
fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you boot it up and it's a black screen. There's an OpenGL error message coming along. Okay, well you meant to
Ah,
fix that.
I see, man.
And then once
Mm.
you start doing these little like initial tests, and
Interesting.
then the game suddenly runs, and it's a car, and there's like a thing,
Hmm.
and then you start, and then it crashes. Okay, well you meant to fix the crash.
Okay. Okay.
So it's kind of like all these little things, right? They start building on top, and then finally you add a feature. I had a lot of fun doing it. Well, they give you a weekend, so it's quite time consuming.
Uh-huh.
You meant to fix that.
I see.
But I mean, that said, a colleague of mine ported it to Android. So, there's there's styles and styles, right? This
Yeah.
guy was like, I'll take this to the very end.
Yeah.
Um, and basically I thought, well, this is what we do all day. You take a
Yeah.
solution, you download the code, some part of it is broken, you get a bug, you go off and try and fix it. Sometimes it's your code, often it's your code.
Yeah.
sometimes it's not your code.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nobody's code,
Yeah.
which is
Some
um,
other stuff. Yeah. Third party.
yeah. And things are broken, and things have like nans and like break, and they
You
look
know.
black for some reason, and they just don't behave like you'd expect.
I
And I thought this test encapsulates what you do every single day. So I
exactly.
thought that was
Yeah.
cool.
This is definitely even hearing it, I already love it as well because
Mm,
it's related to the work, to the product. It's not some random. The worst test for me is somebody ignores your track record or your skills or what they actually do as well, and they find
mm,
some random quiz from whatever. That's the worst for me.
yeah,
But the ideal for me is that if you can somehow make the test be the job, it's
mm,
the ultimate, and it's very enjoyable. Like you said you enjoyed it, so there you have it.
yeah,
Candidates enjoy it as well, which is key, I think, to bring out the most out of Emilio. He has to be in the zone and enjoy it. I think that's when Emilio is performing as much as possible when he feels comfortable like that. Yeah,
yeah.
awesome, man.
So I personally enjoyed it. I've had conversations. Some
Mm-mm.
people say it's too time
So
consuming. Sometimes people don't have the time for that,
yeah,
or maybe a personal thing is a bit better.
mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's no magic trick. TT doesn't do this
Yeah,
test anymore. So you know, I still have it around. It's there somewhere.
mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't know, but for me, if I had to say it, yeah, this is my favorite. I mean, the thing is, it didn't even look like the code base actually. It was like a C with it's a C with classes, and they were using like
Bare
pointers
bones,
and constructing manual virtual tests. So it was a very old school kind of thing.
bare bones.
So they must have got it from some very old sort of code base and then ported it or
Yep,
something
yep.
like
I
that.
feel you. They gave me
Yeah.
something similar at Sony Manchester when I first came here, by the way. Parenthesis closes. But I
Right.
follow you exactly, and I loved it. Yeah,
Okay.
yep,
Yeah. So anyway, so I did the test and they were quite happy. And
yep.
then I actually went to, so the town is south of Manchester
Mm.
called Knutsford. You might know it,
Oh,
Knutsford.
I don't remember a lot to be honest.
Um,
That's for. I don't know it now.
Knutsford,
No.
yeah. It's a really small town.
Ah,
It's where the office is, right next to the
uh huh,
station,
uh
or
huh,
like the main office.
uh huh,
It's a very posh town, very
uh
beautiful,
huh. Okay.
very it's mostly, I would say, like retired footballers,
Oh,
people who are
so
doing,
is that
uh,
posh? Like it's where
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
rich, the
yeah,
glamorous people live.
yeah, very much
I
so.
see. That's why I didn't know it.
Um, and then people who make games.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's very quaint, a very quaint little
Hmm.
village. And that was, you know, I really liked it, to be honest. I
Uh-huh.
felt a little bit out of place, I have to
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
but I really liked it.
Good. That's good.
Um, so I do the test.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I meet who will eventually become my two sort of main bosses,
Yes.
Dave and Basilis. So spoiler alert, I did get hired, but
Yeah.
plot twist,
Oh,
I didn't get hired the first time.
oh, really? No,
So
that's
yeah,
interesting
yeah,
now.
yeah.
Okay. How did it go
So
down, man?
right, so I did really good.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the offices, they were like lined with Lego. I back then the rendering team was sort of embedded with the art team. They were in the main building. They
Yeah.
eventually moved us somewhere else,
Yeah.
but and then it was just like there were shells sort of like along the corridor, and it was just like here's the pirate ship, here's the Millennium Falcon,
Mm.
here's this other Lego from some other project, and here's the Harry Potter castle, whatever it is. I'm
Mm-hmm.
making it up. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know exactly. I don't remember
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
what Lego
It's
was.
okay.
Um, but there was a lot of stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And yeah, the um, we got into like a room. They did the other tests. It was more about like virtual tables and all
Mm-hmm.
that. I went back,
Mm-hmm.
and the recruiter said they're not going with you. And I remember I was like, man, I
Oh,
again paid
yeah.
for my ticket to go to England,
Yeah.
and I'm not getting hired again.
Yeah.
Like same as Portsmouth, right?
Yeah.
And so that was really it was like this close
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
And they'd said no again. So I remember my Anna, my girlfriend then, and
Mm-hmm.
she was like she was a little bit scared because she
Yeah.
knew that at some point I was leaving. But at the same time, she was super supportive,
That's good, man.
super like with me,
Yeah,
like just don't take it like this.
yeah.
These things happen and that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. You have a good
Um,
girlfriend then.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, no, she's wonderful. She's a
yeah,
better wife,
yeah.
good girlfriend,
Yeah.
better
Good
wife. Yeah,
wife now. Yeah, that's good. That's what
yeah,
matters. Yeah. In the difficult times
um,
that you're there, still
yeah.
believing to the person. Yeah,
I am very lucky. She's
yeah.
amazing.
Good, man. Good.
Um, so anyway, so that was that, and so I just kept working at Gameloft, right? What are you
Mm-hmm.
gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Almost at the same time, Manu got hired.
Yeah.
So Manu, one,
Yeah.
my my now lifelong friend, let's say, or
Mm-hmm.
very good friend since then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he moved to England, right? So he
Oh.
actually did get a job.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was there, kind of bummed. My friend's leaving. It's a bit like Luke Skywalker, right? His friends are leaving. They're all
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
to do pilots and stuff.
Dramatically
He's stuck
correct.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like that at all. But I was a
Yeah.
bit bummed like that.
Yeah.
And so, I'm still searching for jobs. I'm still doing things.
Yes.
And one day, the guy who was following me, he was like, "Man, I think I may have good news for you."
Oh.
I'm like, "Oh man, what is this about?" And so a colleague of his calls me and he's like, something's happened at TT,
Yeah.
don't have the details yet, but they're asking if you're still available. It's like,
Dude,
yes.
really?
Yeah, yeah, that
Damn,
was
man.
1 month later, one
Dude,
month
that's so
later.
awesome. I never experienced that. Sorry, go on. I'm good excited as well.
And, yeah, yeah. Well, I was like, this is a roller coaster.
Yeah,
What is
yeah,
even
yeah.
happening? And
Crazy.
I remember just being on the game loft had like there was the studio, there was like a little sort of hall in between the stairs that took to the, and I was in the hall, speaking on the phone, and I
Yeah.
was just like I was actually sat on the floor, like I just couldn't believe it. I just was like, yeah, 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 I want to go, just sighing already. I don't care.
Yeah, I feel you, man.
Um, yeah, and I was completely in disbelief.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Um,
I'm glad it happened, man.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and that's where the adventure in England started. Really, that was 2015 February.
Awesome.
And yeah, so I moved. I was um, I was in like a bed and breakfast for a month.
Ah,
Uh,
classic. The same.
there was what's that?
I was
Yeah,
living
yeah.
in a
It's
hotel for the first month. It was, yeah.
yeah,
I've been there, man.
exactly. It was 40 minutes to and from the office. Like,
Yeah.
I used to record like my thing. I was sending it to Anna.
Yeah.
And so I was just like commenting the whole thing as I was, going back and forth,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just showing her around. Look at
Yeah.
this beautiful town. Look at this
Yeah.
thing. Uh, I was kind of scared as
Mm-hmm.
well. I'd never like lived outside of
Yeah.
my house. If I was in Madrid, I didn't really have the need to
Yeah.
move outside.
Yeah.
Madrid is a very expensive town as well, so I was
Yeah,
I
man.
was saving. I was saving a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It was scary. It's saying everything was new for you. It was the first time living,
mm,
the prospect of living, not just visiting for an interview. It was a
yeah,
reality at this point.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Well, Anna didn't move until we got married.
Mm.
But for me, it was like, yeah, just first time.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll have to find this place or something.
Mm-hmm.
And one Sunday, I was going to church,
Yeah.
so I'm a Catholic.
Yeah.
I was going to mass,
Yes.
and this lady out of the blue just said, "Hi, saw your new face. Um, what are you doing here? This kind of thing."
Yeah. Classic
And I'm like,
conversation.
"Oh,
Yeah.
I'm just working, this, that, whatever." And it ended up that she offered me to stay at her house with her
Wow,
family.
dude. See, I told
You
you
know,
how. Remember in the beginning? Sorry to interrupt you. I told you
yeah.
made me feel very comfortable and friendly, and chatted with you multiple times. I think that's it. Your magic worked on here. Sorry, go
I,
on.
I don't know about magic. She was
Yeah,
very kind, the
good man, good.
kindest lady I have met.
Good.
Patricia was her name, and
Patricia.
unfortunately, she passed away
Oh,
like
damn.
a couple of years after I'd left.
Oh, sorry to hear
After
that.
I'd left her house, I mean.
Mm.
Yeah, no, she was wonderful, and
That's such a
yeah,
beautiful
so
thing, by the
she,
way.
yeah,
Such a
she
beautiful
was.
thing. Sorry.
No, 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 go on.
No,
Sorry.
it's just a beautiful thing. I didn't expect that. That was such a
Yeah.
beautiful twist. Like just meeting somebody, just like that, going outside, and you just connect. There is something very human there. We just
Mm,
connect with another human being, and they truly feel you. They empathize for you, and they help you. I just find
Yes.
it beautiful, man. That's all. It's so
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah,
They gave me, she and her family, husband Paul
yeah,
was I think he was a bit, he probably didn't like it as much at first. But he kind of warmed up to me, and
yeah,
I it yeah, in England there's these things
yeah.
like the granny flats in houses. They'll sometimes have like an adjacent thing, and this one
Yes.
was connected. So like it was to me, it was almost like they prepared it for me. Obviously not,
Yeah, yeah.
but it was like, so I had my space, I had my
Was
thing.
perfect.
I was Yeah, they treated me really well. I think the whole thing sort of went sideways when she was diagnosed with cancer, and so they had to. I had to leave, and they had to sort of like
Mm.
coalesce sort of around the family, and I
Yeah,
really lost contact with them.
yeah. That sucks, man.
But anyway, she gave me the head start I needed, really.
Hmm.
So anyway, it was
That's good.
very close to work.
Yeah.
Uh, Whenever this is getting too long, just let me know,
No, no,
okay?
it's
I
your
just,
time, and I love it. We can do it two
yeah.
hours, 3 hours, doesn't matter. Just say,
Okay.
let it all
Perfect.
out, bro. Let it all out. I love it. And the thing
Okay.
is,
Yeah.
Emilio, small parenthesis, if you are
Yeah.
real like that, if you which you are being real, that's
Uh,
what elevates the podcast. We have to be real, and you're doing that. So yeah, hell yeah,
okay. Yeah. All right.
yeah.
Fine. As long as you
Oh
let.
hell yeah, man.
Um. So anyway, the office was quite close. It was near the station,
Yeah,
the train station. Um. And yeah, that was great. I started off in it was called the render tech team, even though not
mm-hmm.
everyone was rendering, which is
Mm-hmm.
funny.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one guy who was the build engineer,
Right.
and we ended up having two as well. And then anyway, the team sort of shifted, but it wasn't just rendering
I see.
sometimes.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, kind of the first thing I did, I
Yeah.
booted up Jurassic World, and I was like, wow, this is great. So the scene in Jurassic Park where um, they're loading up the Velociraptor, and
Yes.
the thing is in a cave,
Yeah.
and
I remember something.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that the recreation of that scene is the first thing that I remember booting up with the editor and everything. And it's like, wow, this is real.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
finally
reality.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I spent 6 years at TT, and I was really really happy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, TT was a um an interesting place.
Yeah.
The rendering team wasn't that big, right?
Yeah.
So we were, I think in our heyday, we were like 10, maybe something like that.
10, you said.
Like the most we've been,
Yeah.
yeah,
I see. I see.
10, 11, maybe
Yeah.
something like
Okay.
that.
So a small team. Yeah.
Small-ish team,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Small
For the
team.
amount of projects that we were juggling as well.
Mm-hmm.
So TT released like 3 projects a year or something like that.
Oh. Okay. Quite a few.
Yeah, and so yeah.
Hmm.
And the whole thing is kind of like you work on. I mean, this was the first 4.5 years, let's say, or yeah.
Okay.
The whole machine was oiled towards releasing many Lego games, many
I
franchises.
see. I see.
And so as the rendering team and many other teams, we programmed sort of like into the main line, let's say,
Yeah.
and then projects requested features, you worked on them, and then at some point they just spun off.
Yes.
They did their thing. Sometimes you had to integrate, but most projects never came back
Mm-hmm.
to mainline. That's where your
I
hacks
see.
and everything
I
went.
see. I see.
Um, I think the projects, many of them suffered due to this sort of like very fast turnaround.
Yes. Very fast turnaround.
Um,
Three games per year. You said with a team
yeah,
of
yeah.
10. So that was yeah. It was
Well,
intense.
so for us, it wasn't so much, we weren't involved that directly in the projects,
Yeah.
normally.
Uh huh.
As in, we were working towards technology.
Mm.
And if this project needed this technology, that's great. We'll
Mm-hmm.
do it for that one project. And then if another project can take advantage of that, great.
Mm-hmm.
But the last few months of the project for us is bug fixing,
Mm-hmm.
fixing a few things if they go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't babysit the project. We're like in the main thing, and projects
Yeah.
like spin out. There was always like one project, like we were focused on the project that was on main at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Once it spins off, you sort of pay some attention to it, but the idea is it has enough to go on its own
I
in
see,
some
I see, I
ways.
see,
Yeah.
Emilio. Okay.
That is theory.
Yeah.
It never always worked that way, but
Mm-hmm.
kind
Mm-hmm.
of. And I learned so much. So TT, as technology wise, was always sort of behind the curve
Mm-hmm.
because they were always um, releasing games on the older platforms.
Oh, okay.
So they're just like the last,
Mm-hmm.
um, the I don't know how to best say it, like the holding the fort until there's no one else there, and
I see.
and then they
I
leave,
see
right?
what you mean. Yeah.
So when I got there, they were still publishing games. So PS4
Mm-hmm.
and Xbox One was already a thing. It was already halfway into
Yeah.
its lifetime, and we were still publishing for PS3 and Xbox 360
Mm-hmm.
and the Wii U. Um, so so yeah, the I I got to see kind of those platforms that
That's cool.
most people
That's cool.
weren't working on
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
And by the way, in a small parenthesis, when I was
yeah,
working at AMD, at some point I got my hands on a build to optimize and all that. It was Lego Star Wars, and I didn't know anything about TT or the Lego games. And I was like,
yeah,
a Lego game. Okay, what could it be? I was curious, but I was
yeah.
surprised to see it wasn't Unreal or anything like that. If I'm not mistaken, it
No.
was a custom rendering, and I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh, dude, look at that. The Lego games are actually quite legit.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
trying to optimize that, help the developers. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So which Lego Star Wars was that? The Skywalker Saga, I
Yeah,
bet, the
yeah,
last
exactly.
one.
The last
Yeah,
one. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That was it.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll get to that one. We'll get to that one because that one's
Okay.
special.
There is
That
lore.
one's
Okay.
special.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's plenty of lore
Yeah.
because until that time, PT had sort of always operated in the same manner
Hmm.
as I am describing now.
Yes.
Um, Rarely did we cancel a project.
Hmm.
I never saw a project cancelled
Mm.
in the first years.
I see.
There were things that were sort of wound down, for example. So there were other plan. We released Dimensions,
Oh,
and there were
dimensions.
larger plans
Okay.
for Dimensions, but
Okay.
as far as I know, never came to fruition.
I see. I see.
Um, I mean, Dimensions was a massive project.
Hmm.
I love that
Yeah.
game. I really like it. Just the
What
concept of it, the
What was
toys
it
to
about,
life.
Emilio? That doesn't ring any bell. Could you give me some
So
context, please?
yeah, Lego that the games that are called toys to life,
Yeah.
where you buy like a plastic thing and you put it on a receiver and then it
Yeah.
appears on screen and then you play with it.
Yeah.
So it was the same thing but with Lego.
Uh
And so
huh.
you bought these Lego sets and some of the sets came with missions
Uh
and
huh.
characters. And sometimes and a vehicle,
Uh huh.
and some only came with like some level,
Uh
and
huh.
some only came with the characters. And so depending on which one you bought,
I
they were
see.
more
I
or
see.
less
I see. I
expensive.
see.
And I mean,
Okay.
they were all expensive,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, it depends on
Yeah.
that what you got.
Yeah.
Um, and the um,
Mm-hmm.
and it was dimensions because you teleported to different places and basically different realms. So you got
Okay. I
the
see.
WB whatever and the Harry Potter
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic Creatures thing, and then eventually the Ghostbusters and the Doctor Who and the whatever. It was just a massive mismatch
Yes.
of worlds and
Kind of multiverse thing.
universes
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
things. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I see.
Yeah, and so I really like that.
That's
I
cool.
really liked that project. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, and so things kind of went by, and then at some point there was sort of calls for a new thing internally.
Uh huh.
And it kind of we I don't know much of the details, and things are a little blurry, but
Yeah.
it kind of coincided with the Skywalker Saga project.
Yeah.
And so there was a big push internally to have like a new engine,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's because it's already public knowledge. It was called the entity
Yes.
engine.
Yes. Yeah.
There was like a ball internally to give it a name, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember those were one of the how to say the most focused times I feel like for the company. It was very chaotic,
Uh
very
huh.
chaotic. very crashy, very unstable.
I see.
People were complaining about instability all the time,
I see.
um, and with reason.
Yes.
But at the same time, trying to make a project on something that you're constantly changing. There was a new editor.
Yes.
There was a new like entity component system.
Mm-hmm.
There was we kept the core rendering, but we revamped a lot of the internal stuff.
I see.
I mean, nothing was super fancy in the way that you see fancy renderers like
Yeah.
the Doom renderer or the whatever.
But
We were.
it was way more decent than you expected, though. That's the feeling I got when I first saw tech
Well,
for Unreal.
it's not that it was more decent than we expected. It's we were building it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I was part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like the new reflections and new
Mm-hmm.
GI and new like
Mm. Yeah.
lots of stuff
Cool
was
stuff. Cool stuff.
yeah, yeah. I even prepared a presentation about all the tech. It's just that it's never been made public. I didn't get
Ah.
permission to do it.
Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, which was a bit of a shame.
Mm.
Maybe someday
Yeah.
when nobody cares. When I'm
I did
about to
appreciate
die,
it though when I saw
I
it.
just hit send.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man. Cool.
Um. So anyway, um it was a very like how to say like the word in Spanish comes to me.
Uh-huh.
It was very exciting times, right?
Okay.
Everyone was on board this
Yeah.
thing. Everyone wanted this thing. The
Okay.
new editor was amazing. Like in comparison, the old editor had all these like Maya derived kind of like icons,
Uh-huh.
and it was a bit of a mishmash. Things didn't really work. It was all done in like WX widgets, which I don't
Oh,
know if
I
you
used it
know.
for Spartan, my engine. So you have an
Yeah,
engine.
yeah,
The first UI I
yeah.
used was WX widgets, and it's
Yes.
like C++. Like, oh my god,
Yeah, very
never
macro
again, bro.
heavy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all very kind of hard-coded,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
they went with like a C# thing, which has different kinds of problems.
Yes.
But anyway, the editor was a
Sorry.
lot more powerful. It allowed people to do a lot more things,
Mm,
and it even allowed us to do lots more things, right?
yeah.
Just spawn a light here, bake your GI. When I say
Mm-hmm.
live, it's just like at
Mm-hmm.
that point, see what it looks like, fix the bugs. So it was all very, very dynamic, very,
Yeah,
very cool.
yeah.
Um, and but very difficult
I see.
to build a project on that. And sort of halfway through the development,
Yeah.
there started being calls for. Um, it's a bit of a shame I cannot give more details, but
Yeah, it's
the
fine. No
basic
worries. It's better to
basically
meet
called
them and be safe. By the
yeah
way, I won't say this.
yeah
Better to
yeah
meet
no
stuff and we stay safe than to.
yeah yeah
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. No no I'll be on the safe side,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
basically there were calls for Unreal.
Yeah.
There was an evaluation process, blah blah blah. So more details in the middle,
Yeah. Yeah.
and eventually it was decided that
Mm-hmm.
only the Skywalker Saga project was going to be on
Uh-huh.
Entity.
So that's why
Yeah.
it came to be.
So
I see, Emilio.
yeah, it's all public knowledge now
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
Entity is
That's
dead.
public knowledge
So
indeed. Yeah.
it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Of course.
that's how it came about.
Yeah.
And I was super annoyed by
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I really disliked it. I really sort of was for our own tech.
Yes.
I thought that if we just held the same momentum that we had in that time for the Skywalker Saga, we could have
Yes.
done really cool stuff, and it had a
I
very
see.
unique sort of vibe to it. We could do anything. Like everything was so customized for our Lego stuff,
I see. So
right?
there was
We
potential.
used to.
Mm.
What's that?
There
Yeah,
was
yeah, lots of
potential down
potential, but
that path. Yeah.
also like things like
Mm-hmm.
we used to joke about like artists, they always want just one more tick box,
Oh
right?
yeah, of
One
course.
more tick box and everything would be perfect,
Yeah.
right? We could give them as many tick boxes as they wanted.
Yeah.
There were tick boxes for like only cast shadows on Switch while it's undocked.
Oh yeah. It's
Sorry,
yeah.
yeah, while it's undocked, yeah, something like that.
It becomes
Which was
crazy.
like, yeah, exactly. You could do
Mm.
anything.
Mm.
We had a GI solution
Mm-hmm.
that baked, for the consoles and for Switch, like just anything. You can do anything.
Yep. I
It's
feel you.
it's it's
It's pretty cool.
um, and we kind of just threw all that away, which
Mm.
was very sad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I started looking for other stuff
Uh-huh.
because I was so annoyed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at first I got nice offers. I rejected them because I wanted to finish the project,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't yet clear whether Unreal was gonna happen, right? So
I see.
I kind of like I sort of toyed around with that. There was even the option of coming back to Spain, which is a bit scary as well,
Yeah.
to the town of Zaragoza.
It
Um,
was like you felt like you were going back to the beginning, like not progressing. The idea of coming back geographically somewhere. Was
uh,
that the feeling you
no,
got?
not so much. No, not so
So
much.
what was it? How? Why did you say this? How do you felt that?
So I think for some time my wife wanted to go back.
Okay.
So I think it happens to uh, most people. I think
I
I've
see.
read some statistics somewhere that apparently Spaniards are some of the most homesick people in the world.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think Mediterranean, I can relate to it as well, but maybe you take the lead, like you say. Who knows?
I don't know about the league, but there's
But I think
definitely a lot of sentiment like that,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
only belong. So just
yeah. I
toying
can
around with
relate.
it.
Hmm.
But then really when it was confirmed, I was like, okay, there's nothing for me here.
Yeah,
It's just gonna be a countdown till
time
the
to
end.
move on. Yeah.
So I started looking for other jobs,
Hmm.
and there was openings at Playground, and there were
Hmm.
openings at Hangar 13.
Hmm.
And at that time, there was a bit of I mean, in my head, I'd always assumed I need to move for
Yeah,
the job.
yeah.
And so Hangar 13, they're a Czech company.
Yes,
They're like originally a Czech company. They
yes,
have another studio in California, in a place
yes.
called Novato. And then they had
California,
another studio.
Brighton, and Czech Republic. I think three.
That's right,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So Brighton is the studio down here.
Yeah,
And and Brighton doesn't really appeal to me.
yeah.
It's a bit like moving to London or Manchester or whatever. I know
Uh,
it's like a seaside thing, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's
It
just a
wasn't
big
your thing.
city.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just wasn't my thing.
yeah.
And then Leamington Spa. Two of my friends that had worked with me at TT, they were working here. In
Yes.
fact, in Playground.
Yeah.
Manu, my friend from Gameloft, was living
Okay,
here
okay.
already.
It makes a return.
Um, yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, exactly. And so now, so I was like, okay, well, should I go to Brighton, which I don't really like as a
Hmm.
city?
Hmm.
I have no friends, I have nothing.
Yeah,
Or, if I have to start over,
yeah.
well, let's make it with.
It makes
And
sense.
it was absolutely the right call.
Hmm.
Leamington Spa is amazing. Warwick is great.
Yeah.
Just for context, it's Royal Leamington Spa
Yes.
is basically a town, and Warwick is just like smashed against it. There's just
Aha.
like two towns that have joined
Okay.
together
Okay.
almost, and they're just kind of like 40 minutes away from Birmingham.
I see. And also, I
So
think Leamington Spa is also like a tiny place, but also very posh, very glamorous, right?
so it's posher than many areas,
Yeah.
but I would say it's like the right amount of hybrid between family friendly. People working on cars like Jaguar Land Rover, lots of people
Ooh,
here work on this.
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is where they have their,
Okay.
their offices.
Interesting.
There's the British Motor Museum, and that is basically next to Jaguar Land Rover. So it's a
Damn.
museum about, if you like cars and British
I
brands
do.
of cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you come down here, you're
I have to
invited.
come now for a beer
Yeah,
at
yeah,
least,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then go to see the
Yeah,
cars.
yeah, yeah. Or in fact, it's not if you come down here, you're invited. It's you're invited to come down
Thank you,
here.
thank you. We might do a beer. You never know, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
okay, yeah,
especially if it's that
anytime,
interesting. And say, go on, my
anytime.
friend. Yeah.
What was I going to say? So it's the right blend of that
Yep.
and student life,
Yes.
because lots of students come to the University of Warwick,
All right.
and so they'll live mostly in Leamington, but also kind of Warwick and
I
stuff.
see. That's why it's
And
busy. Okay.
yeah,
Mm.
so it's kind of like a nice blend. It's a quiet
Mm.
place. It's
Mm.
Leamington, I think it's like 50,000 people, and Warwick is about another 50,000, something like that.
Oh, okay.
So
It's not tiny.
um,
It's not tiny. As tiny as I thought.
It's not tiny.
No,
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 no, it's
no,
not
no.
tiny, but it's also not big. It's got like
It- It's
like
just right,
the
maybe.
three bears, not too hot, not too cold.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. Balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, I really liked it, and I was like, yeah, this is the right call.
Yeah.
So I
Good.
came here middle of COVID as well, and so
Mm-mm.
we had a kind of like a respite in 2020. At the end,
Yeah.
more or less.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, fine, let's move. Great.
Yeah.
So December of 2020, we moved here,
Yeah.
and um, and yeah, and so
It has been quite nice, and your wife likes it, I hope, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
good.
I mean, my wife has had the progression. So it's kind of interesting, right?
Yeah.
The life of a foreigner can be quite challenging.
Yes.
Um,
In what way,
it,
Emilio? Sorry to interrupt you, but that's very interesting to me as a foreign guy
yeah,
myself. In what way
yeah.
can be challenging, you think? If you can make a small
So,
tangent.
yeah, of course. So I would say that um, mm, in the beginning, definitely, your relationships are mostly with other foreigners.
Ah, yeah, it's true. Yeah, the vibes, or the culture shift.
Well, not just the culture, like the native population doesn't have as much of a need to build social networks as you do,
Ah, that's true, actually, as well. Yeah,
as
true.
foreigners do in
That's right.
general.
Mm.
Normally and some people might say, the English people are a bit cold or a bit distant or whatever. I find the English people, especially in the Downs,
Quite
to
nice.
be super kind.
Yeah, they're quite nice. I like them.
Yeah, they're very nice. They're very welcoming.
Yeah.
So I normally my explanation is normally the native population of a place is already settled,
Makes sense, actually. Yeah.
whereas and you're coming there, you're trying to settle.
You're the new guy.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So in the beginning, it's more about that, and you need to make a conscious effort of making friends.
Yes.
Um, you know, going out with them, meeting them.
Hmm.
You will make friends that you wouldn't have made at home, probably.
Yes.
You'll make friends that are more different. Uh, the more different
Hmm.
from you to you from you. They're more different
Probably,
from
yeah.
you
Yeah.
than they would be as different, in your
I
native
think,
town.
yeah, of course.
That's right.
There is some
Yeah.
deviance, you're saying. There is some deviance a little bit. Your friends, your new friends are a little bit
Yeah,
different.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
There are more differences.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the first thing. The second
Yeah.
thing is your friends will come and go.
Yep.
So that's the second part that I found difficult.
Yes.
Um, so I had friends in Knutsford, and they moved us to a different town called Winslow.
Oh,
It's relatively
Winslow.
close.
That's
Yeah,
where Star Citizen is, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah,
Okay, I
yeah.
know.
Hmm.
Close to me. Yeah.
Hmm.
Manchester. Yeah. Cool.
I should have known back then.
Yeah.
So the so Winslow is a small town as well,
Yeah.
but when we moved, some people
Hmm.
changed teams, some people left, they changed companies,
Yeah.
and it was like, okay, making friends again.
Yes.
And I've just, the my life here is kind of like a constant trickle of friends going elsewhere.
Yes.
Maybe you moving and then
Yes.
getting back to some of your older friends and meeting new friends, and then they go because they have other plans, and it's a lot more unstable
The only
in
constant
that
is
sense.
change, basically. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely,
I
yeah,
feel you.
yeah. Whereas in Spain, I was used to, I have my friends from school,
You're safe.
and
Yeah.
that
Totally.
was a stable thing.
Totally.
It
Totally.
wasn't, yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, so, um, and I guess eventually you end up
Hmm.
getting to know more of the people
Yeah.
who live here, and I find that also like it's hard to understand someone else's culture.
Yep.
Not in the superficial, but in the as you progress in friendships, and there's
Yes.
many things that's
Yes.
like, oh, okay, well, this is surprising. Or, I didn't never thought about this
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and it takes time.
Yeah.
So I mean, the first thing I did when I came to Knutsford is I signed up for the local theater.
Ah.
Yeah, and I played John Silver in Treasure Island.
Oh. So what do you say? You
So
sang not to just attend, but to actually play
yeah, yeah,
a
yeah,
role.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you're also
I
an
was
actor as well. That's what you're
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
bro.
yeah. I did a couple of plays. I was very
Dude, no,
happy.
tell us about it, man.
Yeah, and well, the people were super welcoming.
Yeah.
I learned that English people put milk in the tea.
Yes, yes. That was the first for me as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are even
Uh,
shades of color to the tea.
of
Yes,
course, and
in
everyone
Japan there
has
is a
their own
difference.
share. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course there is.
Yeah.
And there's a
Yeah.
proper order to doing your tea.
Exactly.
Put
You
the
have to be
milk
careful.
into it, remove the bag. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. and yeah, but they were very nice. I had a lot of fun
Good man. Good.
doing that.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, I don't keep in touch with those guys anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sales. Yep.
I loved it.
Yep.
Um,
Awesome.
and they gave me this sort of main role. I was very happy about that, and they even made me speak Spanish. Like, oh, you're like a Spanish pirate. I'm like, we're no
That's
Spanish
great. That's
pirate
a good
guys,
answer.
but let's just leave that there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you had some good
Mm.
times then, Emilio. Yeah, glad
Yeah.
to hear it,
But
bro.
it was just okay. So you asked me about my wife and like how
Ah,
she's
yes.
integrating, and so
Also
I'm
that,
just
yeah.
explaining. Life as a foreigner can have its challenges, and my wife has had to go through that kind of stuff, but kind of like with a bit of a delay. She came
Yes.
in. She came like a year and a half later.
Mm, mm.
Um, and she's had to do like her own network of like of friends and her whole thing. She loves musicals,
Ah,
and
okay.
musical societies here in England are like amateur musical society
Yeah.
are are amazing. They
Really?
are very good. Yeah.
So,
If you've never gone,
yeah.
find your closest one and go
Really?
because
Is that good?
yeah,
Yeah.
they
Okay.
they can be very good. I'm not saying that all of them are.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying
yeah.
they can be spectacular.
So she said basically,
Um,
your wife is set now, pretty happy if that's the case.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So it took a long time,
Mm.
but compared to when we were considering like going back to Spain
Yeah.
with that, what I told you when I left TD,
Yeah.
it's nothing like it.
I see. I see.
She's a lot happier.
Yeah. Good. That's the way.
Yeah,
Awesome, man.
and so sorry, go on. You were
No,
gonna ask?
awesome, awesome. I'm glad to hear that good things are happening to good people. That's all. It makes me happy. So good to hear that.
Oh,
And
yeah. I mean, yeah. If you, yeah, it
uh-huh.
there's plenty of very nice stuff in England.
Yeah.
It's funny. I never thought of coming to England. Like it never even. My first time in England was Portsmouth for the interview. I'd
Yes.
never been to London.
Uh-huh.
Everyone in Spain was crazy about London and stuff.
Yeah.
I had never been. I I
It's
just never thought.
yeah. London, I've
And
been
it's
only
been
once, Emilio, to Soho or something like that, close to Sony
yeah.
PlayStation. What I can
Okay.
tell you, it seems incredibly expensive. Everything was the moment I entered London, even the
Yeah.
pint doubled in price just
Yeah.
because it was a London pint.
Yeah.
So there is like a tax just being in London, like everything becomes more expensive.
Yeah.
And it is, I
Absolutely.
think, the most expensive city in Europe or the world. I mean, I'm not joking, overreacting. It's
Yeah.
truly, truly expensive, but it is beautiful. There are areas which are beautiful. Anyway, little
Yeah.
tangent. Go on, Emilio.
Um. So playground.
Mm-hmm.
I spent almost a year there.
Yeah.
I didn't. You say Forza Horizon. I didn't. I only worked 2 months on Horizon, so
Okay.
that wasn't my main project.
Yes. Ah, okay, okay.
Um, so those 2 months were support work,
Uh-huh.
optimization, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of helped for that bit of time.
Awesome.
They were very focused, very like we need to get this out the door.
Cool, cool.
Oh, excuse me, and I
It's
helped them
fine.
with it.
It's fine.
And yeah, it was a very good experience. And the other time I worked on Fable,
Yeah.
and
Fable. Ah, with Costas.
yes, that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
Costas was my
Yeah.
boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, Costas is an amazing guy, super
Dude,
knowledgeable, very
I never
kind.
met him,
Yeah,
Emilio. He's my mentor for since the
right.
my uni day. I never met him, dude. I'm
Oh,
curious.
really?
How is
Oh,
he in
okay.
real life? Like pretty laid back and chill like us. How is his demeanor? Let's say if that's the word in English. I think.
Oh, I would say he's the absolute master, the sensei of laid back and relaxed.
Really?
Yeah,
Damn.
yeah.
What a guy.
He yeah, his tone of voice is always the same.
Soothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like.
Um,
Yeah.
but he'll answer any question. He's
Mm,
super knowledgeable, very technical.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I bet.
it was a bit. My experience at Playground, I think, was a bit unfortunate.
Mm,
Because they were in a stage where a
yeah.
lot of it was like,
Yeah.
how to say this, like a lot of planning and a lot of what I would call non-work work.
Yes.
Um, and despite all the really good people and the location's great, the
Mm-hmm.
vibe is great,
Mm-hmm.
lots of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I just wasn't comfortable.
Yeah.
And in relation to like Costas, I wish that I'd have gone like a lot more time with him, I think, and
Yeah,
just kind
yeah.
of like spend more time with the
I bet.
technical stuff and the meat of things. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, the rendering team, I think, kind of got sort of it. There were two other guys and myself, and we left
Uh-huh.
in relative quick succession.
Yeah.
And then they've had to hire more people, and now they seem to have like a solid core now.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
The other one who's part of the core is George.
George, okay.
Yeah, George is an absolute machine. He's a Portuguese guy. He's amazing. He's
Yeah.
amazing. I still, he's a very good friend.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of, I'm a very different character to
I
Costas,
was
right?
okay, I see, I
Yeah,
see.
yeah. George is just like seven threads spin up at once, and
Oh
everything
damn,
just
man.
works in parallel. And
Truly a machine then, machine. Okay, I see.
yeah. He's
Georgie. Yeah.
yeah. They're very different, very
I
complementary,
see, I
very
see.
good.
Cool.
Yeah. And so anyway, yeah. So and just that's kind of what I didn't like about Playground. A
Yeah.
lot of it I
Yeah.
thought was like, okay, I'm the way I like to work is I get a task
Yeah.
and clear objectives. This is what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Go off and do it.
Yes, I
And
agree.
then
Yeah.
while I'm doing that, I ask people around. Like the meetings I need are kind of like the ones that'll help me get my objective. The kind of meetings where it's like, oh, there's the Thursday meeting, and then there's the Tuesday morning stuff, and then on
Oh,
Wednesday we also have a.
I'm tired of even
Um,
listening to it, man. Yeah. Yeah.
well,
I
whatever
know.
works for people, it really doesn't work with me.
No, I think in
And
general, and allow me to say this a moment.
mm,
I think in general it's very inefficient, and I'm gonna be honest. I always want to be honest. I think it's a waste of time most of the times. All these meetings and all these emails and stuff like that. Like,
yeah,
come on, is there really a need to have a meeting? Anyway, I'm totally with you, and I think meetings should only be done if there is a legit reason, not like scheduled. Like we have to have it today because that's when we have it. No, screw that.
yeah,
Is there a reason? Is there logic
yeah,
behind it? Is there a specific reason why a meeting would improve productivity? Anyway,
mm.
I will not
I
rant. Actually, you can do that. Sorry.
I find. Oh, I don't want to rant.
No,
It's
no. Sorry. Yeah, you don't want to rant.
um,
Yeah.
I this is a podcast. Let's keep it. Let's keep it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Um, how to best say? So the I find that the value of meetings is not. Sometimes is not productivity. I find that it can be sort of like team building kind of meeting. So if you have like a really short meeting in the morning, it's like 10 minutes. Everyone's like boom, 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 boom
Yeah.
for a small team.
Yeah.
And have a bit of a laugh after work.
Yeah.
Maybe that can work. Maybe once a week. Doesn't have to be daily. The dailies are like the kind of scrum thing, but
Yeah.
that kind of stuff maybe I wouldn't object to.
Yeah.
But some meetings they just drag on, and you're supposed to fill in like
Oh yeah.
almost like paperwork and like documentation and this, that, and the other, and
Yeah.
stakeholders and stuff. And I'm not specifically talking about Playground. It's just as a general concept.
Yeah.
I don't like it, and I just it didn't vibe with me. So because Hangar 13 had already, they offered me something, I was like, okay, well, there's this. Would you? They had offered the possibility of remote.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, why not try this? Right? During COVID, we've been remote with Playground as well. Well, with both TT, I had been remote at the very end, and then Playground had been remote as well, right from the
Yeah.
very beginning.
Yeah.
They gave us a laptop, and we were working and all this.
Mhm.
I did work sort of half remote and then half in the office, more or less.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, let's try this. Hangar was, the guys were very excited. I have to say, I did like a graphical analysis of Mafia,
Yeah.
the definitive edition, which was like the latest. It's in my blog. It was the latest.
Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
No. You say.
Yeah, I've read it. I think that's what I remember. It was you. That's it. I
Yes.
just had the
Yeah.
flashback. I
That's
didn't
right.
mention it.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay, it was you.
And so the thing is, the guys saw it,
Yeah.
and they were super happy that I did because they were super proud of their technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were very happy that I did this analysis, and they even sent me a hoodie and a copy of the Mafia for PS4 and stuff. Like they were really happy that I did that. That was before they'd offered me a job, and the so I was like, okay, why not? Let's try it out. Let's see. What's the worst that could happen? I
Yeah,
thought.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So the interview with them was really cool. I cannot say anything, of
Yeah, of
course,
course, of course.
on what they were working,
Yeah, no worries.
but it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And the week before I started, I read in the public news that the the cool thing they were working on was cancelled.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I'd already left playground, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
had some holiday in the middle. I was like, okay, well, the train is about to arrive at the station. Let's see what's going on.
yeah.
I start. It's like, okay, that's fine. There's going to be other stuff.
Uh-huh.
That's fine. It's not a problem.
Uh-huh.
The very Friday, they canceled the engine.
Damn.
And they moved to Unreal.
Damn,
All
man.
of that is public knowledge
Yeah,
because,
yeah, yeah.
everyone knows that,
Yeah,
the new
no way.
Mafia is. And I was like, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, not this again,
Yeah,
please, not again.
yeah.
I was at a loss. I was like, okay, well, I'll let this all settle over the weekend. Let's see what I think after.
Yeah.
And it
Mm-hmm.
it kind of went by. No one was very clear. The people in the Czech rendering team were devastated. I knew exactly how they felt as well.
Yep.
Um, and so, you know, there was that. So a lot of uncertainty,
Yeah.
a lot of like, okay, what's going to happen? What are we going to work on now?
Yeah.
So I kind of like stood there thinking, let's see what happens.
Uh-huh.
Just in terms of,
Uh-huh.
and so they put me on the, I can say it now because it's been published on the tennis project,
Yeah.
which is called Topspin 5, I think.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, Topspin 5. Which was on the old engine, right? The engine they had just cancelled.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was like, yeah, I want to work on the custom tech. I don't want to be moved to
Yep.
anything Unreal. The technical director was really kind to me. He really wanted to find a solution for me because everyone was like, this guy's just arrived and he's, this is what he finds.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course.
Everything that
Yeah.
he'd been hoping to do
Yeah.
isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So anyway, I worked on the tennis project. I did some,
Mm-hmm.
some improvements, some stuff. I actually integrated FSR.
Oh, really? Ah.
Just funny. Yeah.
What was it? FSR 2? 3? Remember? 2.
I can't remember. No, I don't remember. It was
Yeah.
probably one
Ah,
at that point.
the spatial
I
upscaler, the
Yeah, it
yeah.
was definitely spatial. It was the FCAS and the UCAS or the
Ah, yeah, yeah,
whatever the
exactly.
passes
Okay,
got.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Not temporal yet.
Yeah, there was no
Yeah.
support.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Cool.
They had their own temporal thing.
Yes.
So yeah, and anyway, so basically it was kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, not possible.
I see, I see.
So just looking for a job, looking
Yeah.
for new things.
Yeah.
And so funny thing, right? Just going back,
Yeah.
I had already applied at Rockstar,
Uh-huh.
and Rockstar had already said no, right? So same as TT.
They said no as well.
I
They
I
turned
don't
around. Okay.
I had already gone through a rejection at Rockstar.
That's so interesting, man, how
Uh,
you do these tactics. Explain more, please. Yeah.
there are no tactics. It's like so earlier you were saying
Yeah.
I don't think anything is luck, and I'm thinking no, it absolutely is. A lot of it is
There
luck.
is luck as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Luck just sort of happens while you're working, right? If
Yeah.
you don't work, there's no luck.
Yeah,
But if you
exactly.
do,
0%.
then luck,
Yeah.
starts coming.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right.
And yeah, so I'd already had a rejection, and I can't even remember why. It was like, why not try this again?
Uh-huh.
Since I'm already looking for jobs and all
Uh-huh.
that. And the interview was funny because I do the interview with the HR guy, and at some point after an hour, we've had a conversation, and I'm like, I mean, yeah, I'm just going through kind of the same motions with you guys as I've already done this, and she's like, oh, why didn't you start off with that? I'm like, no, I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they're, yeah, come on.
Yeah.
And so I did the interview, and we really connected, and that's when I started.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, and that's where I am really at this point.
Legend.
I've been 2 years at Rockstar.
You're a legend, man, and you have had quite the adventure, ups and downs. And
Yeah,
as you
that's a
said,
lot
there was
of.
also luck involved and difficulties and wins, and it was it's an adventure, Emilio.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
awesome to hear, and I think because you were so detailed and you shared the wins and the difficult moments, this is very valuable because young people, especially aspiring developers, man, you have no idea how valuable you are sharing this information. I think that's awesome, man. I know I kept you a while, but can I ask you a closing question or two, and I will let you go?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. I
good.
thought you wanted to talk about other things. If this is getting too long, that's
No, no, of
fine.
course.
But yeah,
If
yeah.
you want,
Mm,
you have more to say, to
I,
talk about.
I am all yours. My wife is away in Spain. This is the best.
If you have more to talk about, we can, and then we can
Yeah,
close it at 2 hours. Let's say we still have like 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah.
Well, what else was in your mind? On your mind, Emilio, my friend?
No, no, it's just
Yeah.
sorry, I thought you wanted to talk maybe about like the personal projects or something.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, go on.
I forgot. You're right. I wanted to talk about this, but I forgot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
let me do a small update. You worked on a project called HLSL plus plus,
Yeah.
correct? And then another one, which is what was it, Emilio?
Uh,
CRSTL, some custom STL approach, I
yeah,
guess. Yeah,
yeah, that's
that's
right. Yeah,
on GitHub, and that's you also doing stuff on the site. Could you tell us a
yeah,
little bit about any of those to any extent? I'm curious.
yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So the HLSL++ kind of came out of the math library at DT,
yeah.
which
Oh,
I didn't like the API of,
yeah.
and I was just I asked my so at DT I had essentially like two bosses, let's
Mm,
say, yeah,
mm-hmm,
but they were my bosses, but
mm-hmm.
they and one of them was Dave,
Yeah.
the other one was Vasilis, and both very
You said
technical.
Vasilis. You said the Greek name Vasilis.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Vasilis is great. Yeah,
Greek or
yeah,
something. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you. Go on.
No, no, that's fine. And
Yeah.
so I got along with them like very much in
Yeah.
very different ways. I
Mm-hmm.
probably should have mentioned this in the TT part actually because
Yeah.
they marked me so much. They were
Mm.
like my two mentors essentially.
I see. I see, man.
Vasilis so much as well.
Yeah. Good.
And Dave was like a quiet ant, let's say.
A
You know,
calm force, a quiet force.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. So
Yeah.
he worked very constantly,
Yeah.
very,
Yes.
very in the almost in the background, even though everyone knew that, after technical expertise was all
Yes.
in
Yes.
Dave's head.
I see. I see.
And then Vasilis, I really got along with.
Yeah.
He came from a civil engineering background, so
Okay.
he used to make drawings in notebooks and stuff. He was very
Interesting.
visual.
Oh,
And he really taught me to like attack a problem with like just draw things, just do this, do that.
I see.
Um, um,
Yeah. See, his
keep,
methodology, a nice approach to attack
yeah.
problems.
Basically,
Yeah. Yeah.
very very methodic in
Mm,
that sense. Yeah.
that's nice. That's really nice.
And we really got along character wise. So he was
Oh,
Greek, I was Spanish. We could
yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
laugh,
Good.
curse, say anything to each other.
So it's
Uh,
fair to say that from Kostas to Vasilis, you had a good experience from the Greeks. They treated you well.
yeah,
We're
definitely.
friendly, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They're very friendly.
Good, good. I'm glad that's the case,
Mm.
man. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, no complaints from Greeks.
Good,
Um,
good.
and where this was going is that the math library, I was always kind of quite curious because the math
Mm,
library, because it was SIMD, it was like,
yeah,
you have to have a four wide vector, okay, and then to get the float, you need to call dot get x, and then
yeah,
dot as float, and then dot this and that.
right.
And I was like, this is no way to write a math library. Why can't this be done a bit differently?
Yeah,
And Dave was like, no, because on Xbox 360, this and the other, and scalar, and the vector unit, and the whatever, and so like switching between them and so
yeah,
on. And I was like,
yes. Didn't vibe with
it
you.
didn't,
It's
yeah, it
like,
didn't
something's wrong,
much.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, well, what can I do with it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so I basically started building my own and thinking, how I would, union of unions and this and that and memory whatevers and like the swizzles and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to learn about the intrinsics that Intel has, like all of the SSE
All
and
the
the AVX,
abstractions.
all
Yeah.
this. And yeah, and sort of just started growing, and I have my own toy engine, so I just tested that. I used it there.
Awesome.
That's where I tested.
Awesome.
And then people, every now and then, they'll report a bug, or they'll say, what do you think of this? And I'll be like, yeah, okay, that sounds
Wow.
easy to do. It also helped me like move away from templates because it used to be very template heavy, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is slow to compile, very complex.
Yeah.
I removed everything, nothing changed functionality wise, and compiled
Compilation
everything down.
type, it's drop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
I
And
see.
so I was like, yep, never again.
I see. So that's good. So that
Um,
means people are actually using it. If they come back at you with feedback of any nature, that means
yeah,
your stuff is actually, it's
yeah.
spreading.
It's clearly useful for some people.
Mm.
I don't think anyone uses it in a commercial manner.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I know that there is one person, Dario,
Yeah.
who uses it for one of his like Nintendo 64 ray tracing projects or something.
Aha. Okay.
So yeah, that's a nice project
Okay.
to be like used on, and he's been very happy. He's contributed, so yeah, it clearly works for him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then CRSDL was my way of first learning a lot about data structures and just going back to my studies. I never did data structures of any
Yeah.
sort.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never had a lesson where it's like, oh, this is a vector, this is a linked list, this is a it was all taught to me by essentially Dave and the Sinners.
Yes.
um, I remember there was like an embedded list, like a new E list. NU was the prefix for all of the
Yeah.
classes, or many of the classes at TT. So like, what is an E list? Oh, it's an embedded list. And what does that mean? Oh, it
Mm-hmm.
means that the pointer to the next thing is embedded in the object,
I
like
see.
an intrusive list.
I see.
Okay, oh, okay. And when we use this, then, cache misses, blah, blah, that kind of thing. The
Yeah.
kind of thing
Of
that
course.
you get taught
And
as
I
part
and
of
I guess
the
as well, Emilio, many game developers realize that STL is not the most performant or whatever.
yeah.
You might see online always posts about that. So I guess there's also that. Maybe you managed to make something, some container or some functionality, I don't know, that was also faster, I assume. You did something a little bit more efficient, more game dev tailored, if that's the way to put
Well,
it.
so the first thing I did was use EASDL. So EASDL has
AA stuff, yes.
a lot of the right ideas in there. They have fixed containers. Things to avoid memory allocations. They have containers that don't actually exist in the standard library. They have APIs that the standard library doesn't have.
Okay.
So, like for example, you create a vector of like 1,000 elements.
Yes.
The standard says that you're supposed to initialize them to zeros.
Yeah.
You don't want to initialize it to zeros, only to just overwrite it after. And so, there's a, resize and initialize, which means, just make it as big as this. All I want is a chunk of memory. I'm going to write to it.
I
I know
see.
what I'm doing.
Yeah.
This kind of
Yeah.
facilities you don't have. So I was like, okay, I like this. I want to learn. I was also not happy with compile times and stuff. I
Yes.
was like, can I make this
Faster.
as compile time friendly as possible?
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, I had so much fun learning about
And
this
I bet
stuff.
you also learned a lot because you said you
Yeah,
didn't know
yeah,
about that abstraction and all that before. So this is basically diving head first into the deep water. And after
yes,
coming out of that, I mean, yeah, you know now a lot of stuff a bit about data structures and how they behave and how they perform, how they compile and all that. So
yeah,
it must have been pretty
yeah,
good for you as well, apart from making the
absolutely,
tool. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely, a good learning experience.
Mm.
The thing about this is this, well,
Yeah.
I cannot talk for everyone, but for
Yeah.
me, I'm passionate in terms of learning programming,
Yeah.
learning APIs that might be useful, learning
Uh-huh.
tricks, and that carries on into the job as well,
Yeah.
more often
Yeah.
than not.
Definitely.
Yeah, it also, I wish I had more time to do this, but to write things down.
Yeah.
So I really liked the response that I had to some of my blog content, like
Ah.
blog posts.
So when you say write
Uh,
down, you mean put up on the blog for people to see in a like a post or something like that?
Sorry, can you repeat?
When you say write things down, you don't mean just write down on a paper, but actually to go to your blog and
Oh
make a
yes,
nice
yes,
little post.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
see,
right.
I see.
That's right. That's right. Either, it can serve as a reminder for me, but
Yeah,
also like, okay, well, I'm interested in this topic, and the DAA topic came out of my experience between PT and playground, and then I just wanted to. So I don't know. I would love to write more things down. I
And you
think
know
there's
what? I can understand
yeah,
you. And one thing I get from writing things down, maybe you share this as well. Sometimes writing something or studying about something is the best way to master it. You know what I mean?
absolutely,
Because you
yes,
have to.
absolutely,
If Emilio
yeah,
sits
yeah,
down to tell
yeah,
me about EA, he has to go
mm,
through all of the concepts and understand them quite well if he is to explain them well.
yes,
If I
that's right.
There was a quote by Einstein, last stanza. He said, "If you cannot explain something simple enough, then you don't understand it well enough." He said, and I think there is truth in that. And that
Maybe,
connects
yeah,
with I think what's its value in what you're saying. So I'm totally with you. So
yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah,
pretty cool, Emilio. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I really do like that.
yeah,
And like I said, I wish I had more time.
yeah. Me too.
Um,
Yeah,
and yeah, I don't know. I do have a blockbuster sort of like in the kitchen, let's say,
yes.
cooking, but it's taking
Aha.
like a really long time.
Ah.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
it's nothing super impressive, but I think it's
Yeah.
things that people uh probably come across very often, and so I would like to. But
Yeah.
I do have a small like vocation, I think, for
Uh-huh.
teaching, right, and
Uh-huh.
like
Uh-huh.
engaging.
Cool. And you know what?
Um,
I will put everything, by the way, in the description and all that, your blogs and all that. So
yeah,
I will
sure,
put
yeah,
everything
very
there.
much.
So make sure you finish the cooking. Maybe, yeah. I'm sure people
Well,
will
we'll
love your
see.
work. Yeah.
It'll come
Yeah.
eventually. Yeah,
Good. Good man.
yeah.
Yes.
Um,
And that's it pretty
so,
much, I think, for the GitHub,
mm,
the open stuff, the open source stuff, which is impressive.
yeah,
And also I had one more question.
yeah,
I
go.
have quite a few questions actually. We'll see how it goes. And
Yeah,
you do all this stuff now. You do you do full time and you work on a massive game now with GTA 5. I can imagine it's very intense work, close to the shipping, and now you have your blog as well. You write stuff
yeah.
there, open source work. How don't you burn out, man? Like how do you manage? How do you manage all of this? Because you still seem healthy and normal and not burned out to me right now. You seem like you got it
Right, I
under
see.
control. And I'm like, how does he
Um,
do it?
it goes in phases.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever been seriously burned out.
yeah,
I do remember some very stressful moments at the end of so for Skywalker Saga,
yeah.
we revamped the GI,
Uh huh.
and sometimes with tight deadlines, what tends to happen is that there's very little margin for error,
Yes.
and you make a mistake, and it it might come and bite you, and it might come and bite you
Oh
in
yes.
a
Yes.
time where it's very so.
Absolutely.
Um, and sometimes you just don't have experience with things, right? And so
Yeah.
you regret doing something, and you're like, I wish I had done this,
Yeah.
but also I didn't have the information or the experience to have made that call, right?
Yes.
So either
Yes.
you
Of
trust
course.
someone else, or if there isn't, then you just make the mistake.
Yes.
So, for example, for the GI system
Mm-hmm.
in FTD, there was a light mapper, and there was like a GI for moving objects, let's
Yeah.
say.
Mm-hmm.
And the GI for moving objects was meant to be complementary to the light mapper. The light mapper would do a lot of the heavy lifting,
I see.
and the GI would sort of pick up the results and sort of put them into voxels and
I
stuff,
see.
and they have values.
I see. So
Um,
voxelized like the software version of Lumen or the Brixelizer GI from AMD. So
Maybe
little
closer to the Brixelizer. Yeah,
Brixelizer. I see. I see.
yeah.
And
It
it was
wasn't.
a coarse GI, kind of bigger scale, not so much detail, I guess. Like the
Yeah, it was coarse.
yeah. I
Although
see.
that's kind of where part of the problem came. So
Mm-hmm.
the art started relying more and more on this GI.
Mm-hmm.
And the way the GI worked is it took a sample point and took six captures of the
Yes.
world.
Okay.
And then, we moved to the next one and integrated all that or whatever.
Okay.
That scales very, very poorly.
Yeah.
It can be extremely slow. And so, and I remember like, okay, this is going to sabotage the project.
Mm.
It's just they're not going to have time to make these banks
Mm.
anymore.
I see,
And
Emilio.
so kind of like almost last minute, I had to change. I couldn't change the interface, right? The way they worked. All I had to do was change how it worked internally.
Yes.
And that was a ton of work. It was inspired. Do you know Ray bundles?
How did you say it?
Ray bundles, like a bundle of rays.
Ah, yeah, of course, yeah. I
Yeah.
understand that concept, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so it's like a technique that was invented by some people in Japan,
Ah, okay.
in Square Enix, I think, and then the
Ah, it's a technique,
uh,
okay.
yeah, God of War guys,
Mm-hmm.
They turned it. That was for light mapping. They turned it into like the GI, and so I did something similar.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay.
Um, and yeah, that was a ton of work. And I remember being like, oh my God, why did I ever do this other thing this way? And
Yeah.
it's just like working against the clock to
Oh yeah.
get it done and fast and correct and no leaks and all the rest.
Yeah. I've heard. Yeah. I've
So
heard.
I remember at that time I was like it was very intense.
Yeah.
Um, the way I deal with burnout, I think, is it's a bit paradoxical. When I'm not fulfilled at work,
Mm-hmm.
I tend to gravitate more towards my own code
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
w- because it makes me feel like I have control over what I'm doing
Huh. I
in
think.
some
Wow.
way, right?
Okay. Okay. I think I can really
Th th
understand.
this is my code. Even if I
Hmm.
write like half an hour of it, this is my little
It's yours.
thing.
Yeah.
I have control. I can commit. I can whatever. As soon as I'm happy at work, I tend to start doing other things.
I see. I see.
Because I'm a bit more stable. So I don't think it's a recipe for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is just like um, go take a walk, go read a good book, go watch a good movie.
Yes.
Don't think about the
This
about work too
all the tech
much.
stuff and yeah, yeah. I can
Yeah,
relate.
which is
Sorry. Just about the walk you said. I do exercise. In general, yeah, activities. They have a
mm,
magical effect on your brain and your chemistry. It's way more efficient than people think. Just go take a walk. You
yeah.
say, super important
Well,
what you said.
yeah, and sometimes even solutions come while you're doing something that
Yeah,
has nothing to do with what you're meant to do.
absolutely.
And that's not to say do it because you'll get a solution. It's just do it because you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
uh,
man.
I also like painting miniatures, even though I haven't painted in a while.
Painting
So that's
miniatures.
yeah,
Ah,
that's
is that this? I think Henry Cavill. I was reading about Henry Cavill. Apparently, he
yeah,
paints some Warhammer miniatures. Is that
yes,
similar to
that's right.
that?
I don't paint Warhammer.
Ah,
Well, other than the Warhammer that some friends give me.
okay.
But I'm not a super fan.
Uh-huh.
I 3D print some miniatures and then I paint
Mm,
them.
damn.
Things that yeah, that's something I like to do.
All the way then. Super involved.
Uh,
Making it from scratch, literally.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Good.
Very enjoyable. I like both things. Very,
Good, man.
artistic. It gets your mind off of, this kind of
Absolutely. Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It freezes you a little bit. Yeah. Totally, man.
yeah.
And that's how you
And
cope, basically, Emilio. That's how you just do other stuff. You are creative. You work on your own code or not code, and it helps you.
mm, yeah, definitely. Just have a life outside of work.
Hmm.
The other thing is
Yeah.
imposter syndrome tends to be kind of one of the reasons that you get burned out, I think.
Do you have it, Emilio? Would you say you have imposter
Yeah,
syndrome? Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
Everyone has it
I
all
do
the
as well.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll always find someone that's doing things better than you,
Exactly.
has
Yeah.
knows more than you. But um, I would say that's a good thing. Like I like being surrounded by people who are very knowledgeable. It makes you feel weird sometimes
That's
because
the
it's
best.
like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I clearly need to. Um, I, you don't need to. Like, I was going to say you need to step up your game. You don't have to.
Yeah.
It's a fact of life that people want.
Exactly. And it's
But
sorry. Go on. Yeah.
no, I like to admire people for the kind of crazy ideas that they have sometimes. And
That's the healthy approach,
um,
Emilio. That's the healthy approach.
yeah,
Not to hate them or be jealous. The healthy is to realize that it's an opportunity to grow if you want to. Like
yeah.
what took me, what took Emilio a year to realize. If I listen to him, if he's better at something, and I listen to him, maybe there is a fly. maybe,
The fly is interested in our conversation.
maybe if I listen to Emilio and I'm not jealous and I listen to him, what took him a year to realize could be some paper or whatever. Maybe he can explain to me in a week. So there is
I
beauty in that, and I'm glad you see it. I'm glad I hear you say this.
I don't think I would put it in terms of being jealous, or it's more the effect it has
Mm,
on you,
yeah.
on your own, like perhaps lack of competence in something, right?
Ah, okay,
And
okay.
yeah, I find myself intimidated sometimes
Ah,
by people who are very knowledgeable in like a specific subject.
yes.
Uh, they know they know so much stuff about
It's crazy. Mm,
things that I haven't had direct experience in.
mm,
I don't know what topic I could say
yeah.
that um, it's just any topic, you know.
That you have a deep knowledge.
Let's say ray tracing, right? I
Yes.
have never actually worked on ray tracing
Yes.
or at my job.
Uh-huh.
So the ray tracing APIs and the ray tracing hardware and that kind of thing, and
Yeah.
so like it's easy to get to say, okay, well, I don't get this. I don't
Yeah.
get this. Am I just not um, clever enough? Have I not read enough papers? It's
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
I've been there.
And yeah, and for me, I think the approach is more one of, I would say, admiration, but also the fact that everything eventually clicks. You need to spend enough time,
Yeah.
effort. You're not you're not dumb. You're not incompetent. You're not nothing.
Exactly.
You it's
I know where you're
there's
going.
so yeah
Sorry. Finish. Finish.
there's so much no there's so much stuff that we don't know more than we know, so, and that's just a normal state of things.
Totally,
Same
Emilio.
thing applies to
Everything is super
anyone.
difficult before it becomes easy. And also,
Yeah.
my strength, for example, how I go about things, I don't see a paper and I understand everything at once, or whatever
Mm,
these super smart people might do. My strength
mm,
is I never get tired. I'm a machine. So I can stick
mm,
with a paper for 1,000 years until it gets through my thick skull.
yeah.
So yeah, there are many ways to go about it, and even if you don't get something immediately or whatever, it doesn't mean anything. You can still do it.
Yeah.
Persistence and
That
hard work,
that
I think, is key, Emilio, to that.
That's the main point, yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I have to say, I always got the impression that someone like Costa just like
Oh,
skims the paper and he's like, "Oh yeah, I get everything. Oh yeah, how do you do that?"
he's, he's like a machine, just scanning the papers, everything
Yeah,
understood,
yeah, yeah.
right
And and
across.
some
Yeah.
and sometimes people with a lot of background context. Like
Hmm.
I remember something about like a BRDF, and I was struggling to do the thing, and
Hmm.
Vasilis from TT, he just got it, and it was like, yep, implemented the thing, the separable BSDF thing,
Yeah.
and we were doing that, and I'm like, oh, I spent so much time reading these papers, and now suddenly you come along and get this thing, like how? It's just one of those
Yeah,
things.
it's
So
crazy. It's crazy.
just
Yeah.
yeah, just
Yeah.
enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the smartest.
Exactly.
Just
That's it.
contribute to the game or
Exactly.
whatever. Yeah, what you're
Just
doing.
be. You know what it is. It's like you are the best if you can self-actualize. Maslow, a sociologist, said that the goal of each person is to become who they can really become.
Mm,
They're the ultimate version of themselves. So that means in a parallel universe, there is an Emilio who is the ultimate version of Emilio, and you should
mm,
aim for that. And that Emilio is different than me or anybody else. It's unique to you. So one key
mm,
thing is to understand that there is a potential specific to you that only you can actualize, self-actualize. And you should only
mm,
worry about that. Now, if somebody is a better runner or reads a better a paper faster or whatever, that's cool, awesome. It doesn't take anything away from you.
yeah,
Your goal is to self-actualize that ultimate Emilio that lives in some
yeah.
other
I
dimension, let's
yeah.
say. It's
The
that.
the the healthy thing is probably being better than yourself yesterday.
Bravo. Yes.
Whatever that means, right? It might mean
Totally agree.
it's funny. It's funny because sometimes I think in our industry, people who do have clever ideas and things,
Yeah.
they obviously shine a lot more.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of silent work in
Oh
um,
yeah.
people who do like support work and tooling and like um,
Hmm.
um, how do I say this? Let's say,
Yeah.
let's say in some mythical company,
All right.
someone creates a system that reloads shaders automatically without you having to press a key.
Wow. Okay.
That is super valuable,
Yes.
and it's not shiny work.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not shiny work.
Exactly. I know
The
what you mean.
the person who did this knows if he listens to this podcast, he'll know what I'm
Yes.
talking about.
Ah, okay.
But
So it's a real
uh,
example. That's a real
yeah,
thing. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
It
Okay.
is. It is.
Okay.
And they know what I'm talking about. And I thought, man, this has changed my workflow so much.
Ah.
It's much faster, much better.
Yeah.
Great. I didn't think of that. It's not a shiny feature. It's
Yes.
not won't go in the but it's great. It's
Yes.
great.
Yes.
I'm very
Yes.
grateful for that.
And also,
Um,
shiny is relative. Like it might not be shiny in the general sense what you're saying, But for you, it
yeah,
was like you recognize this, and you even
yeah,
mentioned
yeah,
him
yeah.
now.
That's something.
So
Yeah,
he
yeah,
got
yeah,
some sign now. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's right.
some people see it, I guess, and you saw that, and it was valuable. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
yeah.
get what
That's
you're
right.
saying. You're right.
Mm,
You're right, my friend.
yeah,
Is there anything else, or can I go to another question I have?
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Excellent. Actually, I remember it. And the question is, say you had a time machine, my friend, and you
Okay.
could go all the way back to the teenage Emilio or whatever age you want, and give him
Yeah.
an advice to make his life easier when it comes to the career or anything. I think that's a nice question because a lot of aspiring young people now can get from your experience as well. So, what would you say to a younger version of yourself as advice to make your life easier?
Mm,
It's a difficult question, isn't it? Quite open. Take your time, Emilio.
yeah, yeah. I'm just trying to think. What would I have said to my younger self?
Yeah, it could be technical thing, could be life thing, or buy stocks.
That's one definitely. Don't find them stupid if you buy them.
I'll let you
Um,
think. I'll let you think. Yeah,
huh. It's a
yeah.
it's not an easy question.
It's definitely
I
difficult. Difficult. It's very difficult.
One thing that I tell
Hmm.
some people that I think is useful in
Yeah,
my life is to be focused and have a purpose.
I see.
Have your purpose. Um, like know the reason why you are doing things,
Hmm.
I would say. Um, it's maybe easy to get hung up on I need to know this, I need to know that.
Yes,
I, must be the best and gotta catch them all kind of thing.
I feel you.
Um, but
And I think what you're saying is important because things can also get difficult many times. Life can get difficult or boring or whatever. But if you have a
yeah,
purpose or a passion, maybe it's what can make you persevere, withstand the difficulties, and push through. So
yes.
maybe you're very spot on that. It gives you the ability to endure. I might be wrong, but I think that's where you're going with it, aren't you?
So when you said something that will make your life easier, I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to make anyone's life easier
Uh huh.
necessarily.
Uh huh.
It's more you have to, I guess I mean, it's not like I've had a super hard life, right?
Yeah.
I've had a bit of an adventure, but
Yes.
lots of people have it a lot harder than I do.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say I don't want to make their lives easier, it's not in the literal sense.
Yeah.
I suppose for me, it's more valuable to say um, your purpose will drive you enough that the difficulties will be seen as just part of the road, not as something bad, but as something necessary.
Mm.
It's a bit like sacrifice. This is the
Yeah.
way you can understand sacrifice, even in a religious kind of sense. It's the thing you're giving up to get to a higher place.
Definitely.
Um, and I would say that sometimes
Yeah.
we might think because of our environment or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
things should be easy, things should be challenges. I remember watching an interview with the Naughty Dog guys, and they were saying part of their motto was love the process, not the product.
Yeah.
And I thought that's a pretty nice gem in there. Um, the the process is what should make you
Yes.
happy.
Yes. You're very
Uh, you
correct.
know,
Mm.
um, you're not. This applies to everything, right? It doesn't just apply to work.
You've stricken gold. Yeah.
Yeah,
It does.
yeah,
It
yeah.
does. And
But
I want to make a small parenthesis to
yeah,
show you
go.
how bang on you are right now. You remind me of a Greek poet called Kavafis, and he said
Mm-hmm.
that that was a poem. I'm not going to go into details, but the poem
Okay.
was that the destination, the journey, is the more important than the destination, and you should
Mm,
wish for the journey to be long, and other stuff. It's a big
right.
poem, but he focuses very much on the journey and the value the journey has, and not the
Yeah.
destination. It's a very famous
Yeah.
Greek poet. And I think you've stricken exactly that. So there must
Mm.
be some value to what you say, for sure. I can relate to it. And I think
Yeah,
others can, even poets. Yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful.
I think it's easy to focus on the shiny bit. Um, and sometimes when you're reading papers or you're focusing on the success, and I would say
Mm-hmm.
you were saying something about burnout and stuff as
Mm-hmm.
well. It's like, yeah, it need it probably needs a bit of it's not a change. You can change your material circumstances, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But there's also some part of it that is like inside. When I paint miniatures, I'm
Yeah.
obviously thinking of the end result, but the painting itself needs to be fun, needs to
Yes.
be challenging, needs to be that kind of thing. And
Yes.
sometimes these miniatures, when they're printed, the 3D printer they have imperfections. You need to remove them. They'll break, and then you need to glue them
Mm-hmm.
together and whatever. And it's like it's annoying in some sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. So I think that's what I would
Yeah.
that's what I would say.
There
Yeah,
is value
if
in
I
that
had
for
to say,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think you're a wise man, Emilio. I agree with you. It's a wise way to look at things. And that's it. But this has been so amazing, by the way, so far. A lot of great value coming from you. I think especially young people will gain a lot from that. And Emilio, I have the last closing question because
Well,
we're at 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I love talking with
yeah.
you. Well, you might come back actually.
Okay.
But the last question is for people that will be definitely interested now, in you now.
Yeah.
Where can they find more about you and your work? I will add stuff in the videos, but can you tell us?
Yeah. Sure. So I have a blog.
Hmm.
You can put the link below.
Of course, we get
So
it.
it has some graphical analysis.
Hmm.
I made my first technical post, and then I put like a bit of the life of a graphics programmer, which is more like
Yeah,
um uh,
it's an
I guess like
experience. Your experience. Yeah,
yeah, kind of
yeah.
like an
It's very
experience
valuable.
or sort
Yeah,
of article,
yeah,
um, which I enjoy doing.
yeah.
I also have the GitHub with my two projects. My little engine is there. There's not much value in that.
Ah, don't say that. I will put that
uh,
as well in the
but
description.
I like it.
Hmm.
A lot of my I've modeled it around what I would have liked the TT engine to be.
Yeah.
So we can
Ah.
probably possibly for the what in if you wanted to do a future podcast, we could talk
Oh yeah,
more
of
technical
course. You
because
know what? There is.
this.
It seems like we have a lot to talk about, my friend. So you might be a recurring guest actually, because I enjoyed the chat as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
know
yeah,
I could
go.
do this.
Yeah.
Lots of anyway. I modeled it around what I would have loved some of the TT aspects to
Yeah.
become,
Yeah.
because that really was influential for me in the way it's
Mm-hmm.
been structured. We could talk about engines and how engines structure the things I've
Oh hell
seen
yeah.
because I've seen many.
Yeah.
I think it's nice.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
and yeah, so there's the blog, there's the GitHub,
Uh-huh.
there's Twitter as well or Bluesky if that's what you want. I'm
Yep.
not as active
Yep.
in Bluesky,
Yep.
but my handle's there. I check it every now
Yep.
and then.
Perfect.
Um, I think yeah, both Bluesky and Twitter have their own like programming communities. They're just a little bit
Hundred
different.
percent.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
find
100%.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you can find me there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I
yeah,
think
that'll
that's
be
it,
the
and
main
I will
thing.
put everything in
Yeah,
the video.
yeah.
And I think that's a good time. 2 hours and 2 minutes for the first episode together. It's a
Yeah.
great time to wrap it, I think. And Emilio, it's so easy talking with you, man. You're such a nice guy. You're awesome at what you do. It has been a pleasure, and I wish you the very best. Not that you need my wish for good things to happen at this point. And I'm pretty sure, man, you're gonna come back if you have the time. I would love to have you again,
I
and we can
always have
talk
the
more.
time for
Yeah.
you. Always
Thank you,
the
man.
time for you, Panos. Thank you
Thank you,
so
man.
much for inviting me,
Take
really.
care, Emilio.
Ah,
Bye,
all
man.
right, man.
Bye,
Take
man.
care. Bye bye.